And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Next Round Sports. We've just completed week one of the NFL season, and we are ready, gnawing at the bit to jump deep into it. But before we do, this is Chris Porter. Joining me here, my partners in crime, my compadres, Jeff Amos and Caleb Culver. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
I'm
Recovering,
in
but we're
recovery
good.
mode
Yeah,
right now,
I
and
think we're
I'm
all
pissed.
recovering
Pissed. We'll
for
get
Well,
there.
different
we'll
reasons, but
we're going to get into all of that coming up here soon. First, we want to go ahead and jump into, as I said, we're ready to start the NFL. We're going to have a long segment here discussing that. We're going to start here with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll move into a lot of the other teams and a lot of the other games right afterwards. But first off, starting out with the Dallas Cowboys, Sunday night football in MetLife Stadium against the Giants, and a complete demolition of the Giants. There was a
yeah,
time in the second half where Daniel Jones looked just complete deer in headlights, like he didn't know what was going on. It was
yeah,
really
he
sad at a
was
point.
done. Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
against the second team defense too. At that point,
Hmm.
like they had like in the fourth quarter, like they were Cowboys are like, all right, let's pull all our starters. We we're gonna start resting people for next week. Oh man, I mean it was funny too. Like I think 3 or 4 plays in, they even said for the Giants to have a chance to win, Daniel Jones has to rush for 70 yards. So
Yes,
they're
they
not
did.
counting on his arm. They're saying let him rush.
Well, in
And
that
yeah,
first, and in that watching the beginning of the game, that first series, they were able to move it down the field on different runs. Daniel Jones was able to go
yeah,
ahead and scramble. That's something you don't want to fulfill your whole game plan on. But I was getting a little concerned with the way the
it
Cowboys'
looked like a
rush
good first
defense was
drive.
last year. And they made a good first drive and they got down, and then the field goal was blocked, returned for a touchdown. Then right after that,
Yeah,
you had the interceptions, and it just went downhill
yeah.
from that point,
It's
and
just
it
a
just
crazy pick
they couldn't
six
recover
too.
from
Like
that.
I think we were joking with somebody at the bar when me and Jeff were watching. Like when that ball got knocked out, and I think Gilmore grabbed it. Like we're like, that's a gift from God for God's team. He just
Hmm.
came out of nowhere and got that and took it back to the house.
yeah. I think the thing that I thought about the next day is, like you said, Chris, the Giants were able to run the ball effectively against the Cowboys on that first drive. And yes, you had the blocked field goal return for the touchdown. What I don't understand is, especially with it pouring down rain in the Meadowlands, why the Giants felt the need to abandon that plan. Because to me,
I mean, they
that
were
they
only
knew
down
the
13 at that point too. So
well,
it is
no,
a very
no,
valid question.
well, I mean, I think in theory, you would have hoped that you would have been up 3-0 after that first drive, and then they got the block field goal return for a touchdown, and
I
then
mean,
all of a sudden
yeah,
the Giants completely
yeah,
abandoned their
but
plan.
nothing
They
went right
freaked
for the
out.
Jets. Nothing went right for the Giants. They even had just a random shank field goal when they
Okay,
were like within 20 yards.
Well, I don't
So I
think that they
mean,
fully.
okay, but
all the
no,
stats
they
were like
didn't.
40-0. They lost the
Why
sack
did
battle
they?
seven
Why did
zero,
they
turnover
abandon their
3-0.
game
No team
plan?
has done that in the season,
To
but the
me, it didn't
Giants,
seem
and it
like they
came.
abandoned it. It just seemed like it quit working. And then they tried something else, and then when they tried to come back to it, it was it at
See,
that point
well,
you couldn't come back to it because the Cowboys had a big enough lead that their defensive linemen in the interior and the pass rushers were just pinning their ears back and coming after them at that point. There was no way they could get any passing going on between
right,
Trayvon
and
Diggs
so
and
that's
Stephon Gilmore. It was shut down. It was dink
Yeah,
and dunks is all they could do, and even
I
then,
mean, Micah
Darren
Parsons,
Waller,
Demarcus Lawrence. Oof.
their new their new addition, Darren Waller at tight end, could not do anything.
well, no,
He
I'm
was
I'm
even
not
being shut
surprised.
down by the nickel cornerback. I mean,
I,
it
I
was
wasn't
just
surprised by that,
it was a
but
complete defensive shutdown domination, and
Hmm.
I don't expect that every week, but that's the way you start the season out. I don't feel like they completely abandoned the run. I just don't think that after the blocked field goal, I think that the air was taken out of the team and they just were defeated at that point.
Honestly, I
Like,
think it was after that interception or pick six that the air kind of went out
mhm.
well, but I mean,
because
the
the
thing is,
defense was
though,
still there, but the offense was not pushing anything into it.
No,
Well,
Because
I
it was like
defense
13-0 for a while.
Well, I think it was
Um,
after that first. I think it was after that. The reason I'll say this is the Giants freaked out. I think Dayball really fucked up here. And I'll say this because they're running the ball effectively, and then all of a sudden you give up that random block field goal. Yeah, it sucks to get, kicked to the nuts and losing on the road 6-0 on a play like that. But then you go Daniel Jones, incomplete pass. Daniel Jones, incomplete pass again. You go back and pass again, he gets sacked. And then Cowboys go down there, have a nice drive, kick a field goal. And then you had the pick six. And then you do the same thing again. And at that point, the game was over. Against this defense, when you're down 16-0, barring just an absolute miracle, you're going to freaking lose. And to me, the Giants abandoned their game plan way too early, and that cost them the game, and that cost this game to snowball out of control. Did I expect the Giants to win this game? No, I didn't. But the Cowboys, to me, were gifted not only from bad play, yes, but the coaching staff did their own team no favors. I think this is a failure by Brian Daboll.
Well, no, like you got a good point there when you bring up the coaching staff, because like
Mhm.
he seems to be very good against the JV teams, but you look at his record against the Cowboys and the Eagles, it's losing. It's a losing record. So you put him
Mhm.
against those big teams, and he just seems to stumble.
Oh, it's Daboll now. It's not McAdoo.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's all right. My bad.
I did this before. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
coach back.
I'm a coach back. That's how often Giants change them. I can't keep up. But yeah. So I mean, it's like I said, it's mediocre teams he wins against, but you put him against a good team, and he struggles. So
I just think the coaching was pretty inferior by the Giants. And then obviously, again, what we saw out of Dallas on Sunday night, I would venture to say we're looking at arguably the best Cowboys defense in franchise history. I mean, this is unbelievable how good they are. And Micah Parsons, like,
yeah.
if you just want to look at a random box score and say, oh, well, he only had one sack. But do you realize what he allowed the other players to do on that line?
Yeah, and the pressures he had as well.
Dorrance Armstrong was able to get 2 sacks. Odizigzua was able to get 2
Who?
sacks. Even Chauncey Golson.
Mhm.
Osa Odigizua.
There you go.
I got you.
Odigizua.
Yeah.
Diggy
No,
Zua.
like I said, like I mean, it was great. Like they singled him, and Parsons ran through them. They doubled him, and somebody else came free and got, like you said, those sacks.
And
Our
D-Law was
pressures.
able to get the sack too. So I think it's also a good reflection of that 2021 draft class. You had Odigizua get the 2 sacks. You had Chauncey Goldson get the sacks. So that's 3 sacks out of your 2021 mid round draft class. So I think that's great there as well. So the depth is there. Mike is able to allow opportunities for other guys to make plays. His impact was huge on this game. So if people just want to say, oh, well, 3 tackles, 1 sack, what did he really do at the end of the day? He made a beyond significant impact.
Well, anybody who watched the game could see that the way that he was just tearing through the offensive line like they were wet tissue paper. I mean, they've got some decent linemen there. Now, the guards aren't good for the Giants, but their tackles are actually really good tackles, and he made them look like they were just brand new rookies. I mean, but that's besides all of that, that's everyone knows that Micah Parsons is pushing to be the defensive player of the year. I mean, that's his drive, that's his goal. We knew what we were getting with Micah Parsons this year. What impressed me the most on the defensive side was the aggressive play by Trayvon Diggs. With him stripping the ball out, the hits that he was putting on to cause the interceptions. Trayvon Diggs, to me, took all the talk from the San Francisco game of him not being there, being weak to heart. And I'm hoping that that is the chip on his shoulder that he carries on the rest of this year, because his play, and I've had him in fantasy the last couple of years when he's been an interception king. To me, he played more of a team ball than just I'm getting the interceptions, I'm getting mine. No, he seemed to be more in the sync of the defensive system in doing his part and taking care of it and being a lot more aggressive. And
that might
I'm
also
very
be
happy to
willing
see
to
that.
trust the other side, having Stephon Gilmore over there. That may be a little more of him being able to trust that side too.
That is true.
Yeah,
I thought that was a
Stephon
fantastic
Gilmore
signing, bringing him in. When bringing
Oh,
him in, I
well.
thought was very underrated. Like it kind
As
of
a
went under the
Ravens fan,
radar.
I hate you for doing it for a 5th round pick, because you could have had it for
Exactly.
a 5th round pick. But whatever. Very good
And
trade.
then-
Very
I'm
good.
happy to
also,
have
too-
it for a 5th-round pick, because I thought it was you take Stephon Gilmore over an old Stephon Gilmore over a 5th-round pick any day, hands down.
sure.
Right.
Mhm.
And also, too, another guy that looked really good to me was Deron Bland. Once again, he's a steal
Mhm.
last year in the draft. He had a fantastic game. To me, and Caleb, you mentioned Stephon Gilmore. And again, not to overreact, because everyone always likes to overreact in week one. But
What it's here for.
But what I'll say this is that, would you rather have Trayvon Diggs or Stephon Gilmore? To me, Stephon Gilmore was the most valuable secondary player for the Cowboys on Sunday night.
Well, yeah,
Well,
he
I
was
mean,
until
you could say that because he got a pick, but I'm with Porter where it's like, hey, I didn't hear Diggs' name for the most part, so that's great.
well, that's the thing with
That's
Stephon Gilmore. You did not hear his name until he got the interception. Diggs, you actually heard his name, but it was because he was making plays. He was able to cause the interception. He was stripping the ball, which that's fine. To me, a good cornerback, you don't hear them the entire game, which we'll get into later with the Jets and Bills. But in the Jets and Bills on Monday night, you didn't hear Sauce Gardner's name said the entire game. That's good, because you
Yes.
know he's shutting down his players. That's good when you don't hear your name as a cornerback. But Trayvon was into, when he was making plays, he was doing what needed to be done. He made some big plays, which is why you had to call your name. Stephon Gilmore shut everything down until that interception fell into his lap and he was able to pull it up before he was able to hit the ground. I mean, just a fantastic play, a veteran play to be able to make out there. But I think you're feeling good with those two, covering out the two best wide receivers. You feel very confident. It doesn't matter who the number one, which side he goes to. You've got a
you could
quality
honestly
player out there to watch
say
him.
everything about everybody in this game because it was such a domination.
Every phase.
Yeah,
From
every
special
phase.
teams to defense. The offense looked sluggish at different points. They looked a little bit. The special teams and defense looked in midseason form. The offense looked like it's week one and we're getting things moving. Brandon Cooks, got a lot of looks. Brandon Cooks was getting the ball thrown to him all night long, which in one of my leagues at CeeDee Lamb, I was really getting upset with that. But I was happy to see that as a Cowboy fan that, okay, he's fitting into the system. He's earned Dak's trust, and he's able to help mentor a lot of these younger guys, these younger receivers, help with Gallup, help even with CeeDee, who is the number one, but still be able to help give him that veteran, mentality coming through, because he's played around the league multiple times. And it's not like Brandon Cooks is a slouch. It's not like he's team jumping because no one wants him. He's being traded for number one, number two, first, second round picks. I mean, it's not like he's having 1,000-yard seasons with every team he's with.
And that includes the Texans too. So, I mean, when you have no quarterback, and I think you make a really good point on Brandon Cooks' impact. Again, you look at the box score and say, okay, well, he only had 2 receptions, 22 yards. What do you do? He got a lot of targets. And to me, that, like you said, shows the respect and chemistry factor that him and Dak have already established. And let's face it, Michael Gallup is no Brandon Cooks. He's a good number 3 receiver, but Brandon Cooks is a significantly better asset than Michael Gallup. is.
We'll
His
see how the
route
year
is better,
goes
his
on
vertical
that.
speed is better. But to me, watch. I would keep an eye out for Brandon Cooks as the season goes on to establish himself.
You're
as
telling
the
fantasy
true-
managers to go out there and
as
get
the-
Cook if he's on the waiver wire?
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm
To
surprised-
me, he's
I'm-
a true number 2. If you ask
I'm
me,
surprised
not
if Brandon
Mike
Cooks is still on the waiver wire, because in every league I have, Brandon Cooks was selected. And I don't blame them for selecting, because you expect CD Lamb to draw a lot of the number one, the best defensive backs. So Brandon Cooks, if you got him against those, second best defensive backs, maybe even a nickel back or something, you're going to take Brandon Cooks in that lineup, and you expect him to see a lot more balls thrown his way. Also, you've got Brandon Cooks, who started his career with Saints, so he played under Sean Payton. He went to the Patriots, played under Bill Belichick. He went to the Rams, played under Sean McVay. He went to Houston. He's played for a lot of really good championship level coaches. He has a lot of experience from all that time around, and also those quarterbacks he played with, because he played with Brady. He played with Drew Brees. He played with Matt Stafford. I mean, say what you want about Matt Stafford. The guy won a championship, and, he's, besides his injuries last couple of years, he's been very, very solid.
And also, too, say what you want about Deshaun Watson now, but he was at a top level when he was under him, too. I mean, he's played for top-level quarterback.
Yeah, so, I think he brings a lot of experience, and he can bring those intangibles that they haven't had from a receiver. Because, yes, CD is great. I love CD. He was great in college. He came in. He's your number one. He's taken those steps to go through. But he's only known this one system, and he's still learning how to be a number one and to be, a leader in that aspect, even though he is one. Gallup, you never expected him to be the number one of the leader. I mean, he did get paid, but he's only ever played for the Cowboys. He's never played for anyone else. He hasn't played under these other coaches. You bring somebody in with that veteran experience, that veteran know-how of how other teams and other great coaches, build you up and do with that. All that experience that he can impart onto this receiving room is huge. And that's why I found it doesn't, to me, even on the field, what you get from him is good. That's golden right there. But that experience that he can impart, that wisdom he can impart on the rest of the receiving core, is, you can't put a price tag on that. And to give that realm with the Jets, bring in Randall Cobb in. And Randall Cobb had his time with the Cowboys and had his time with the Texans as well, too. But his experience that he was able to come in and impart on their young receiving core, I put that into that realm of, you bring in that good veteran that's been there, that, has put the work in, who can help basically player coach to help along with that, and is willing to accept that role. It does nothing but help these younger guys become better veterans along the way, better professionals.
Absolutely.
But anyways.
Yeah. So now the question is, probably, do we want to kind of book in good news for the Cowboys and good news for my team in between, Senor Jeffs, or
Whatever you don't want to do is fine.
Well, I think we can look, before we go ahead and pass on through this, I do want to bring up the stat. This is a video that Jeff, your wife, sent me, and I had seen multiple times along with this, that no team has ever lost 40-0 or worse.
Oh yeah,
lost the sack battle 7-0 or worse.
Turnovers to 3-0.
Lost a turnover battle 3-0 or worse. Had a blocked field goal return for a touchdown, and threw a pick six in the same season. In the same season.
And they did it in one game.
And the Giants did it in the opening game of this year. There have been some good defensive performances that were put on this week one, and we'll get into some of those here coming up. But this is I don't know if it was just the defense, like Dan Quinn had the perfect plan up for Daniel Jones and the Giants, which Dan Quinn's Jeff's boy. That's his boy.
Well, we know Dan Jones what the Cowboys screwed themselves. They should have given the franchise tag, 1 year, play like an adult to Daniel Jones, and signed Saquon Barkley to the extension. Instead,
you mean the Giants? You said the Cowboys, but you mean the Giants did that? Yeah,
the Giants should have done that. Instead, they screwed themselves in the long run. Which, welcome to Giants football, unfortunately for the Giants fans.
But also at the same time, that's the way the NFL is going right now. You don't sign your running back to a long-term quarterback, to a long-term contract. That's exactly what the Cowboys did with Ezekiel Elliott. That hurt them.
Well, that's how you win in the league. You're freaking different. You don't follow the rules.
And who else is doing that? The only other team that has done it.
You're behind.
No. Okay, the only other team that's gone and done that has been the Tennessee Titans to sign Derrick Henry. And have they won? No, they haven't, because they have Ryan Tannehill. Exactly, they have Ryan Tannehill, and they can't find anything better because they're too busy playing everybody else. You have to have an elite quarterback. And if you think that guy's your guy, you have to pay him to keep him. Okay, yes, Daniel Jones looked like a deer in headlights, got his brains beat in. I completely understand that. I'm happy about that as a Cowboy fan. But at the same time, who are the Giants going to get that's better than that right now? And who can they draft that's better than that?
Right, and that's just the way the
After
NFL
what he did last year.
now.
This rookie class looked pretty dang good last year.
It did, but all those quarterbacks were
Bryce
gone before
Young,
the Giants ever
CJ
drafted.
Stroud, Anthony Richardson,
Yeah, those guys were going to be gone. They weren't going to pay for that after the season they just got from Daniel Jones, where he got him into the playoffs when they shouldn't have been there.
Hendon Hooker, who might have been the best QB out of the entire class, possibly going in the second round. Well, Levis went late. You could have had him.
I'm not arguing with that, but are any of those quarterbacks you're going to take over Daniel Jones?
Yes, I would take every single one of them over Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is stupid.
You're not going to take those over Daniel Jones. Even though I don't like Daniel Jones,
2 years ago,
you're not going to take him over him because of what he's already done. By the way he took the team and put him into the postseason last year when they weren't even supposed to sniff it, he earned that contract with the Giants because
that was because of ease of schedule. That was not because of Daniel Jones.
And it's not going to matter. It's what have you done for me lately? What have you done? That's the NFL. What have you done for me lately? I'm not faulted. Like, I agree with you, but I'm just telling you that's the way that it is, whether you like it or not, because I'm telling you right now, as an NFL GM and my job's on the line, am I going to take a risk on a rookie quarterback?
The GM
my job's on the line.
His job is not on the line.
Your job is always on the line. Your job, you have to run as a GM.
That way, yes, everyone's job.
You have to.
I could be fired tomorrow. It doesn't matter.
So, are you going to risk your season
on a guy
on an unproven rookie?
I take the risk,
except for the guy that took you to the playoffs that you shouldn't have been to the playoffs, but took you there anyway and won you a game in the playoffs that you haven't done since Eli Manning was there.
I'm taking Hendon Hooker in the second round, and I'm taking the dang risk with the franchise tag of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley's my guy. I'm riding.
With his injury history, it's Saquon Barkley. His injury history.
He had 1 year where he was down.
He's had like 3 years he's been down.
No, he's been out for 2 years. Do we want
2 years where he missed 3 games, I think, that second year, and he finished near the end of the year injured. So he only missed 3 games.
No, but I mean,
they didn't make the playoffs that year. Then last year, where he was out a lot.
Well, no, I mean last year he had a great
whatever.
Season
We're digging into the mud.
Yeah, I don't think he's played a full season in his entire career.
I mean, we know the Giants are crap. We know they're crap. We know what they are. Let's go on.
They are who we thought they were.
Let's talk about the Bengals. You know what? I want to talk about the Bengals.
Another team that we are who they thought we were.
Let's talk about the Bungles. Let's talk about the Bungles.
And the other game that we were wanting to talk about, that we were just kind of teasing around with, the Bengals and the Browns. And that game, we were able to get up here in the Pittsburgh area, of course, because we get all of the AFC North games up here. And
so jealous.
A lot of people, kept asking me, hey, I had Joe Burrow on my fantasy team. What's going on? Why is Joe, it's Joe Burrow, and they've got this receiving core. And I kept having to answer that question from my father-in-law, from, people at work and everything else. What's going on with this right here? It was an in-division game. The Browns play the Bengals very well. And actually, the stat people don't know is that Joe Burrow is 1-5 against the Cleveland Browns in his career. And that is a surprising stat.
Like I say, I mean, that pass rush with Myles Garrett's serious. And the
It is.
Bengals'
Myles
offensive
Garrett
line
is a
has
great
historically
player.
been bad. And I'm going to go back to the discussion we had last time, too, is that this is rust from Burrow. I don't think he was necessarily ready to come out. I don't think his receivers were ready either, in all honesty. But I think it was just offensive rust, which we saw from several teams throughout this entire week one.
To me, the guys that played the best was the secondary from Cleveland. Those guys kept Jamar Chase covered up. They kept Tyler Boyd covered up. Those guys played out of their minds, and they didn't get any penalties. They were on top of it. And that Cleveland secondary is not what you think of as their strength, but those guys played extremely well on Sunday's game. They played very, very well. And I think they were the ones that really, to me, had the game ball over anybody else on Cleveland because they shut down that Cincinnati receiving. And yes, all the credit there goes to the defensive line. But when you think Cleveland's defense, you're thinking of Myles Garrett. You're not thinking of their secondary. You're thinking of those guys. And yes, you are true. Offensive line able to get in there and rush Burrow and keep on that. But even when he was getting rushed, he had no one to throw it to because they were getting covered up by the secondary. The secondary, I think, just at the beginning of the game, if you'd have said before that game started, who are you taking in a bet? Cincinnati's receiving core or Cleveland's defense secondary? You're going to take the receiving core every time. Pretty much everyone I asked that question to would have taken that receiving core. But that secondary, I think, outplayed everything on that and really stepped up and really helped win that game by taking them out, by taking Jamar Chase completely out of the game.
Honestly, I didn't get to see this game, but I would also want to question Burrow's mobility with that leg injury from preseason. How did it look? Were the throws off when he was putting pressure on it? The drops a little off? Anything like that?
From what I watched, he was pretty mobile because he was running for his life.
Yes.
Myles Garrett was chasing him around with a battle axe, swinging it around his head as he was running. I mean, he
has used his helmet before.
He has used his helmet. That was against the Steelers. Mason Rudolph, who is apparently a giant douche, but we'll leave that to another conversation. But he was running for his life from him, from what I could see. I mean, he looked like he looked like a season one. He did not look mid-season form at all by any means. And of course, yeah, he hadn't played all preseason because of the injury, but I didn't see anything injury-wise that was holding him back. He looked like it was week one, which, like most quarterbacks, first-string quarterbacks who aren't playing during the entire preseason and look a little rusty from that. That's what he looked like, to be honest.
There's a lot of offenses that had that same look.
Exactly. A lot of offenses did. But everybody, they expected more with Jamar Chase and, that receiving core that they have with Higgins and with Boyd. We've come to expect that from the Bengals. And that's the thing, is that's why I look back at the secondary. The secondary was able to shut that receiving core down. And even when Burrow was out in space, when he was able to get away, he still had no one to throw to. And yes, a good defensive line will cover up will make a secondary look great. But even when he was able to get out into the opening, which he does, which he'll scramble around to the right and get out and be able to make that throw, he had no one to go to. He had to throw it out of bounds, or he ended up getting sacked because they had them covered up. They really did a great job when it comes down to it. So there was nothing that he could really do even when he did escape the pass rush. Just from me watching the game, what I got to see whenever I was flipping between the two of them, between that and Steelers 49ers, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah. And so basically this was just a complete chicken shit performance by Cincinnati, top to bottom. I mean, this is a scenario to where, okay, yes, I understand that you don't play any preseason, but Brock Purdy, I don't believe played in the preseason. I don't believe Tua played in the preseason.
I think they're still
know,
trying to figure out part of that 3 preseason game thing now.
Well, there's no excuse for this. I don't care if it was rain or not. This was fucking
sorry.
awful. So you have to me, blame the coaching staff. If you're the head coach and your job is to get your team prepared to play, they were not ready to play yesterday, and the play calling was atrocious too. They acted like they hadn't called a game.
So are you putting this loss
January.
on your favorite scapegoat then? The coach of the Bengals?
Yes, I am.
Well, I
'Cause
do
this
have
was
one
awful.
question. Before you go on, I do have one question. You bring up Brock Purdy, you bring up Tua. Both of those guys, Miami playing against the Chargers, Purdy playing against the Steelers. They're playing non-divisional, non-conference games. You were playing against a divisional rival.
A state rival.
And an in-state rival. So those games we always say are going to be different than what they are. That's going to be completely different than the way those other situations are. Yes, they both did well. Tua, we'll get into that later, had, a fantastic start to the season. He's actually has the most yards passing in the league starting out now here going into week 2. Purdy didn't have the most yards, but he played a very, very good game. I know that he was on my bench in fantasy. Legit. He looked good, but at the same time, they were not playing a divisional foe. It doesn't matter what records are. I mean, there were times back in the day when the Cowboys were, losing every game of the season, but would at least win one. It was against the Redskins at the time. Now the Commanders, which maybe they'll go back to the Redskins with new ownership. You never know. There's been a petition. We talked about it last week. Maybe we'll see. Mm-hmm. But Washington would be, undefeated, and the Cowboys would win that one game just when they shouldn't. They never should have won that game. But it's just that divisional rivalry. You never know what's going to happen with it unless it's the Cowboys and the Giants week 1. But I'll get off the Giants there for a while. I think the divisional rivalry had some aspect to do with that right there. And the fact that we talked about that Burrow's 1-5 against Cleveland. Sometimes a team has your number. We've talked about that in baseball with the Rangers and the Oakland A's, where the A's just have their number. There's just things you just can't help sometimes. And yeah, coaching maybe can have an aspect with it, but I think that has something to do with it. I don't think it's hard to compare these other guys that were playing against teams that they don't normally play against. And it's not that divisional rivalry that kind of, I believe, has a big aspect in things.
Well, the problem is the problem is this is 2 years in a row now. We've done this. You start off the season where, okay, Joe Burrow was out last year, was appendicitis this year.
Well, this is why we asked you, were you worried about rust? And you went off on a rant.
And I wasn't, because I felt that we were going to be ready to go from a coaching perspective, from a game plan perspective, and we were not. And this was an absolute failure. I don't even think Cleveland, to me, looked particularly good for the offensive side of the ball yesterday. I saw the same exact Deshaun Watson that I saw last year. I don't think he looked very good at all. I don't think he was incredibly effective by any means. Though, and then when you look at Nick Chubb's stats at the end, that's because the defense was run out because they were out there for so long and had to defend, for lack of a better phrase, their 3 and outs on offense. Also, too, I don't think they committed to the run game enough. I thought Joe Mixon looked really solid, and I would have handed the ball off more to him. The Jamar Chase route tree was fucking terrible. I think it was a mistake not to address the tight end situation in the offseason. Irv Smith is just a backup quality quarterback. T. Higgins got 8 targets yesterday with no yards or no receptions. That's a fucking problem.
Do you think that they're missing Sanjay P. Ryan?
I don't think so. That's a fair question to ask. And I'm not saying that you're wrong for
I
bringing
thought he
up
was very serviceable coming in, especially in the receiving aspect of the game.
No, absolutely, and I
Yeah.
think he is, and I
Nixon's
think
not
he
a
is.
slouch in the
But
receiving game either.
no, he's not. But no, that's certainly a fair question, and yeah, I would like to have Savaje
Since
Perine, but
he
he can
went,
have
I mean, since he
everybody.
went to Denver, that was just something that I thought that maybe that gave he was that, not a blanket as you give the tight end, but he seemed to have that drop down, aspect for Burrow, at least last year, especially whenever, you had your guys covered up when Higgins and Jamar Chase were covered up. Yeah, P. Ryan would have a, 120-yard receiving game, as a running back, because he'd just get those dink and dunks and was able to move,
Well,
there in
yeah, I mean,
space.
I think. Look, I would certainly love to have Savaje Perine right now, but I don't think we necessarily missed him today or yesterday or 2 days ago, rather. I just think that to me it was just a complete failure for the coaching staff. We did not have our team prepared to play at all, and then
Well, there's one thing we compared last day.
the
We
one
both mentioned
phase.
their coach is not a strength of the Bengals.
Well, the one phase that we actually did good in yesterday, and I thought our defense again played well. But again, when you're going 3 and out of your time, it's tough. I thought Joe Mixon looked good. I thought Joe Mixon looked good out of the backfield catching the ball. I'd have liked to utilize Travion Williams and Chris Evans more. We didn't do that yesterday, especially when your quarterback is struggling. Look, I know it's Joe Burrow, and you gave him the highest paid contract in NFL history, but he clearly didn't
Right
have
before
it.
the game, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also, too, and I think you do make a good point, Chris, about this Cleveland Browns secondary, because you had Denzel Ward back there, first round pick, Grant Delpit, second round pick, and you have Greg Newsome, who's also a first round pick. And if Juan Thornhill was healthy yesterday, that'd have been another first round pick in that secondary. So yeah, that secondary for Cleveland is loaded. But to me, I got more out of this game as being just complete ineptitude from the Bengals offense as to why Cleveland the game yesterday. Like Nick Chubb, solid game, great game, but again, when you're going 3 and out every single time, defense is going to get run out, and then you just hand it off to Chubb at the end. I don't think Deshaun Watson looked particularly good yesterday at all. And I thought we got great pressure on Deshaun Watson. I thought our secondary was solid too. But again, there's only so much you can do when your offense isn't moving the ball.
And we'll definitely get some more aspect on Deshaun Watson when they go up against the Steelers this next week on Monday night in Pittsburgh. So we'll get to see a lot going on with that right there. But we want to go ahead next into your Ravens. Kind of got a good cakewalk there with the Houston Texans.
Right, yeah. They made our pass rush look dominant. So thank you for the 1 week good pass rush. I don't think we're going to be that good again where we got 5 sacks in a game.
Take it where you can get it. But that's not the big story of what happened in this game.
No, the big stories are the injuries for sure. J.K. Dobbins, as we know, is now out for the year with an ACL injury. Marcus Williams is most likely to join him with the torn pectoral muscle. We'll see how the surgery and repair goes there. Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Limbaum both have ankle sprains, I believe, high ankle sprains. So they might be back week 2. They might miss a game. So it's not good heading into a divisional round where you could potentially have both of them out. Also, Marlon Humphrey and Mark Andrews have a chance to play next week, but there's nothing for certain. And our offense did not look good. And they were trying to force feed Zay Flowers and got booed on the field in Baltimore near the end of the second half. When they were forced
I thought he looked pretty solid. I mean, he wasn't.
Overall, it was okay. It got better in the second half for sure. But that first half was rough. And I think that was just the rust.
Yeah, and I'll say also too, I thought everyone was worried about how good is this Baltimore defense. Roquan Smith was fantastic.
He set a
Patrick
single game
Queen.
tackle record that Ray Lewis has owned 3 times. With Ray Lewis had 14 tackles 3 times in a single game. Roquan Smith has 16.
Wow.
And 2 of
Roquan
those
Smith is a monster. He's a monster.
He is.
He truly is.
Throwing a sack and 2 tackles for a loss in that. So he's just the beast and the heart of that defense right now, especially with Marcus Williams unfortunately going down.
I didn't get to watch this game, but I was keeping up with it because I do have Zay Flowers on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
So was able to take him late because I needed another receiver, but and our talks is what brought me into it. He could be. So we saw with that, but the big thing is with J.K. Dobbins, they need to find something there at running back to help out with that. Are you regretting maybe them not going after Ezekiel Elliott?
No, not when you got Dobbins, Edwards, Hill, and Gordon at the time. Now maybe releasing Gordon now looks a little interesting, but
now maybe they go back and try to bring Melvin Gordon back.
It's possible.
I mean, he's still out there. No one else has signed him. He's got some, familiarity with the playbook. I don't see why you don't go ahead and bring him back.
You got him. You've got Kareem Hunt is still a free agent, if I remember right. So there's options out there that you can go get. My guess going forward is Gus Edwards going to be the main back, but Justice Hill was the touchdown vulture with 2 of them this past week.
Right. And so it's going to be interesting. And I was reading about this yesterday is that Harbaugh said that it was a little surprising that he just voluntarily said this, is that he is going to stay in-house with this running back core, which I don't know if that's necessarily the best.
Harbaugh says stuff like that, and then they'll go sign somebody next week. Between who they're going to go sign or what the injuries are, Harbaugh gives no actual information. He may say something and they're going to go do something else entirely. He's just not honest when it comes to those things.
I guess the thing is they need to make sure they establish some sort of running game, because we'll do the same song and dance with Baltimore again, where they start off really good and then all of a sudden Lamar Jackson is injured because he ran the ball for 20 times and then he's banged up, and then you bring in Huntley again, and then you can't win a game.
And that might be, also we don't need Greg Roman calling a QB sneak from the 2-yard line in a playoff game. Dumbest play call in NFL history. But whatever.
I thought it was good.
Of course you did. It got you the
Brady,
ball from a fumble.
Brady did it all the time. Brady did it all the time. He did it all the damn time.
BS.
Yeah. He did. Oh, he did.
So
Brady did all the time.
I wouldn't be afraid if we actually did go sign somebody. But overall, I mean, the Ravens look good in the second half. I think they're rounding into form. They can be a good team this year. That defense is going to be good.
Should the Ravens go ahead, knuckle up, and trade for Jonathan Taylor?
Oh, wow.
No, they won't. His injury histories.
I know you're saying they won't, but should they? Your opinion. Should they go get him? Would you like that?
No. Not if he's going to miss 4 games already. It doesn't help us.
That's less games than was J.K. Dobbins missing.
I'm betting we're going to sign somebody probably next week after the Bengals game.
Better than Jonathan Taylor?
I'm not saying they're going to be better. I'm just saying we're going to sign a free agent.
Okay, but I'm saying them, Gus Edwards, any of them are better than Jonathan Taylor, even when he comes back in week 4 or week 5.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's probably the better back overall.
Okay, so why wouldn't you kick the tire? I don't think he'd argue with him. Kareem Hunt's past his prime.
Kareem Hunt's got the receiving and other stuff. But
he's worth kicking the tires on. I'm not doubting that. He's worth kicking the tires on, but Jonathan Taylor is a far superior running back. And why not? Why not ask and see? You may have to pay a little bit. You're not going to pay a premium, but you're going to pay a little bit more than what it was. Well, yeah. Okay, second round pick. You're taking him?
Second round pick, I would take him. Not a first.
I would not give a first round for Jonathan Taylor at all. But a second round pick, Absolutely, I would.
I
Especially
can
you
say
bring him
that.
into a team that actually has a legitimate chance where he's motivated to come in and come attack it. Because the guy's not. He's Jonathan Taylor's not just some like random, hey, I'm just trying to make the money or whatever. He's actually highly intelligent. He wants to go work for NASA after he's done with his NFL career. The guy is really smart. He
It's fine
knows
to
when
be
he's in a good
smart. We need the
situation.
drive too.
Well, I think he needs that drive.
I'm not saying.
It's
Yeah,
like
I mean, the motivation in Indianapolis right now is horrible.
well,
I feel
I
sorry for
use
any player playing.
I use this example like with my son in this aspect of like talking to his teacher today. He wasn't listening very well, but it also because his class size has gotten smaller. They've been moving kids around, getting everything all set up. He's in a smaller class size, and his teacher feels like he's getting bored. He's not having as much fun as he did when there was a larger class. So maybe, so he's getting bored, so he's acting out just a little bit. That may be that's the reason I bring this up. It's okay. He's smart enough to know if I'm in a good situation where I want to win a championship. That's why I'm playing this and not working at NASA or doing whatever else to make money, because I enjoy this game and I want to win a championship. That's what I want. You get him in that environment where you're with a team that is focused in on that. Because let's be honest, the Colts are not. They're in a rebuilding area right now. That's what they're in.
They are.
But you put that player, in that level of a team that's going for a championship right now, you're going to get more out of him. He's more motivated at that point than he is being in a rebuilding team where it's like, I don't want to be in a rebuilding team. I thought we were going to be pushing for a championship. We're not. What am I doing here right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously got that ankle injury that's limited him a couple of times.
He does, but how much
injury looks like
how much has everything been more of a smear campaign by the Colts so that no one would trade for him?
Mm-hmm. So that's been the question with Taylor. We don't know. He could have got traded to another team and started week 1. And it was just the Colts talking madness. We don't know.
He could have. I mean, there's a lot to go on with that. But yeah, I agree. I would take a second rounder for him. I would send a second rounder for him easily. But I wouldn't do a first rounder.
I would do second rounder.
Now, there's also no running backs coming out of this year's college field that I can name off the top of my head that could be good.
Mm-mm.
Well,
I haven't. We'll get into college.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah, and we'll get into college later. But I think as the season progresses, we can get more of an idea of running backs as they move along, because I think there's a lot of potential out there. We just need to see if any of these guys are going to actually put themselves to the forefront over a lot of the quarterbacks that are going to be coming out here this next. But we're going to get to that in college football here in just a little bit. Yeah. All right, I wanted to just touch up on just a couple of the games that happened this week. Little quick snippets before we get into just some talk about next week's games. One game I want to talk about, which is it's been on everybody's tongue, the Miami Charger game, and what Tua and Tyreek Hill did, through the air. Don't have the stats right.
And Herbert had the lead in that game too, and just gave it up.
They did.
I say Herbert, the Chargers.
So Tua had 466 passing yards for 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill had 11 receptions, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill was
destroyed me in fantasy. Yeah, he destroyed me in fantasy.
He won.
Right. And I mean, Herbert only had 1 touchdown, which is crazy. But I mean, you got Austin Eckler scoring. I think Austin Eckler got 1, Josh Kelly got 1, and Justin Herbert also got a rushing touchdown.
Well, they ran the
Herbert
ball
only got
really
1 pass.
well. So to me, it was Brandon Staley defensively, which he's allegedly known for.
They got 234 total rushing yards.
Well, that's the thing is that you look at the Chargers defense. They got Joey Bosa. They have on the edge. They've got Derwin James, one of the best secondary guys in the league.
You have Khalil Mack now. I know he's old, but
Khalil Mack is very serviceable coming off the edge there.
I mean, this defense should be better than what it is.
They just got abused. They got abused.
This could be another issue of coaching, maybe Brandon Staley.
Staley is one of the coaches that are on the hot seat this year.
Yeah, and I think,
Mhm.
Chris, I know that article that you sent the other day, to me, Brand Staley has the hottest seat in the NFL right now. To me, this guy.
Well, that one I sent you had Ron Rivera as the hottest seat, and yes, they
Well,
did beat the Cardinals, but still, Ron Rivera I think has the hottest seat just because of the ownership change, and
well,
they need
yeah.
to show something there to show they need to stay with the new regime. But Brandon Staley is up there along with that as well. I do fully feel like he needs to. They brought in what's his name from the
Kellen Moore.
Cowboys? Kellen Moore. They brought in Kellen Moore. They need
That
to
was a
show something.
mistaken hire.
I think so
Sorry.
too. Justin
I thought
Herbert.
they did a great
I had
job
Justin
on him.
Herbert in fantasy last year, and he was terrible. I was like, hey, he's going to really blow it up this year. He's going to take on the next one. No, he didn't. He looked terrible. He was terrible last year. Lost me too many games. I didn't even sniff anyone from the Chargers this year because of that. And I see that happening again. I don't know if Herbert had a great rookie year. He really did. But is he just going to be another Phillip Rivers where he's all stats and just can't get anything finished as it goes along? Because that's been the Chargers' MO from Drew Brees to Phillip Rivers, now to Justin Herbert.
I think he's going to do a lot better. I just think the way the game went from an offensive perspective, if you're the Chargers, if you're able to run the ball, for 6-7 yards a carry like they were doing every
So they
single
got 234 yards. That's an impressive amount of
to
rushing
me,
yards.
you're just able to swap that out at ease. I would have done that every single time. To me, this goes on Brandon Staley because he's a defense.
Well, Kellen Moore's calling play.
And I thought Kellen Moore called a fantastic game. In the NFL, you should be able to win.
You just said he
scored
did
34 points.
He should have ran more. That's what you just said.
I said they ran 40 times. I don't know how much you want them to run more. My point is that I thought Kellen Moore called a fantastic game. He called a fantastic game.
Well, we'll move on here from there because there are a couple other games I wanted to touch on. One I just wanted to touch on quickly was the Eagles and New England. And the Eagles looked like they were going to run away with this game. And actually, it was kind of impressive how Mac Jones and the Patriots were able to keep it close. And actually, even though the Eagles were able to take the win, it wasn't the blowout that I think everybody was expecting. So just quick notes on this game from you both.
Figured out this one's about where it should have been. I expected the Patriots to be about this way. Their defense is still good. The running back had a heck of a game too. Rust from Philly, rust from Mac Jones early on. Some bad throws early on from Mac Jones too. I think he threw it straight to the Eagles.
Did have a fumble in his debut with the Patriots,
and so did Josh Allen. But it's like you can have those things, especially week one.
Yeah, I thought that again, it's like you said, Caleb. I thought this game kind of went as pretty much how I thought it would go. I think ultimately the Patriots did not address their running game enough in the offseason. I think it's pretty evident that Ramondre Stevenson is just another guy. And then at this point in time, Ezekiel Elliott's just another guy. And you don't really have a loaded receiving core. So, and you have a solid defense, but they'll be good to hang in for a game when you're at home, but that's not going to win you enough games or be competitive in the division. So I kind of felt that this is really, really what I envisioned. I kind of thought this is how the Cowboys Giants game would have gone. But
so, do you see the Eagles losing any luster after their run to the Super Bowl last year? Do they feel like the most dominant team in the NFC?
I don't. If you felt that way,
I don't think you can say dominant. Yeah, you got the 49ers, the Cowboys,
which we're about to talk about here in just a minute. 49ers,
right? So my point is, if you feel that the Eagles are still one of the most dominant teams, I don't think yesterday changed your mind.
Okay. Last game I wanted to touch on here while we're in our NFL run is the Steelers and the 49ers, and the 49ers were able to run away with this game. TJ Watt had an amazing game, but on top of that, he just could not will anything more than that, even with the amazing game he had. I mean, it was over 20 points put up there. And Brock Purdy looked good. He looked like the top end bus driver you want him to be with all the guys they had. I mean, it didn't hurt that Christian McCaffrey was running over everyone and around everyone and on top of
125
everyone.
yards.
I got to watch a lot of this game, and Christian McCaffrey was unstoppable. Like, they could not. It took 5 guys to bring him
This
down.
is
He
why the
was running
49ers
with
are the favorite to win the NFC. They're very
Mhm.
balanced overall. Defense, offense, special teams.
Fred Warner is extremely underrated as an inside linebacker. Completely underrated. He is fantastic. He is great.
He's the best middle linebacker in the NFL.
I can't argue that. I cannot argue that at all.
Michael
Fred
Parsons
Warner
might be
is
the only one, but
fantastic.
he's kind of a hybrid.
Well, he's
Parsons-
edge now.
He's an edge now. He's a
his
defensive
official
end. He's
position,
an edge
but he's
rusher.
such
Yeah,
a-
he's not an inside line. If you put him in inside linebacker, he could be the best inside linebacker. The thing is, they're not running him at that because he is so. They started him out at that, but when DeMarcus Lawrence got injured, he was just so good at rushing the pass rusher that you can't put him in there because no one can stop him. He's so fast. But anyway,
Kenny
I mean,
Pickett
Nick Bosa,
just had a horrible game too. He was
well,
throwing behind the open receivers when there actually
he
was
awful.
open
I was
receivers.
about to say,
He
why did
regressed.
this team? Why did people have? To me, what I can't figure out is why Pittsburgh, or why people thought Pittsburgh would improve.
Yeah,
didn't
I
see
mean,
anything
he had
out
a
of
great
Kenny Pickett
preseason.
last
That was
year.
against third strings.
Who the hell cares what he did against the preseason?
Exactly. That was the hype, though.
He-
It was hype because he had such a great preseason. He's going to come
He-
out on fire.
he completely regressed, but it's easy to regress when you're getting chased by Nick Bosa all over the damn place, the highest paid defensive end in the league and one of the best in the reigning defensive player of the year. I mean, that has something to do with it. Not to defend Kenny Pickett by any means, because even when he wasn't getting chased down, like a
That's a
fox
problem.
from a hound, even when he had a few times in the pocket where he was open, yes, he was underthrowing it. He definitely regressed in that aspect. And that's something that Tom's going to have to work with, because if he doesn't, Tom's looking at his first ever losing season.
Right. And that
Yeah,
game that Drake Jackson had yesterday for
Mhm.
San Francisco. I mean, what a second round steal that turned out to be.
Yeah.
They had
And also,
three
don't forget,
sacks yesterday.
Deontay Johnson went down for the Steelers. He was supposed to be one of their top receivers.
Yep. He did
Well,
go
that's another
down.
thing. That's another thing. I'm not sold on Pittsburgh's receiving core whatsoever.
Well,
I
how
like
can you with
Najee
Deontay
Harris.
Johnson and George Pickens?
There's
I mean-
a lot of hope in their receiving core. And that's the thing, is hope doesn't pay the bills.
And
It doesn't.
just sucks because you're just wasting talent from TJ Watt. I mean, because he had a phenomenal game yesterday.
He had a great
Him
game.
and
And
Minka
then
Fitzpatrick both.
him, and
Wasted
then
away on that defense.
and their longtime, defense lineman Cam Hayward, who got injured in the game
Yeah.
2 days ago, and we don't know when he's getting back. So that's going to be a rough thing for that. Najee Harris looked terrible in that run. I mean, you kind of figured that with that run defense from San Francisco, but
Mhm.
there was nothing they could do. San Francisco is who they are. They are who we
Yeah.
thought they are, and they are a damn good team. And it's going to be, you see San Francisco and Dallas meet again.
Week 5, right?
Yeah, I think it's week 5 they meet, and that's going to be a game to watch right there. If you need to put a game to watch. If you're only watching one NFL game this year, that to me that's the game you're going to watch, San Francisco Dallas, because that
I gotta
game's going
watch
to
the
be
Bengals and
a
Ravens
hell of a game to
personally.
watch. Well, we're getting to
That'd
that.
be a good one.
The Bengals Ravens do come up this week. You guys are playing
Mhm.
each other.
Mm.
So I expect some epic trash talking between the two
Yep.
of you after whatever happens next week. So
I need the Bungles to be bad for one more week, Jeff. Then you can take off and get rid of that rust and whatever.
Well,
Yeah,
you need your
I just
defensive backs to play the way Cleveland did, so you should go back and have
We
them
do.
watch that game and make sure that they play that way.
Mark Andrews can actually start. That's what I'm praying for. I doubt
Yeah,
Humphrey will, but I think Andrews could start, so our offense might look a little more.
You need Mark Andrews there. That
Unique
definitely hurts
or
you.
set
I forgot to
than-
bring that up in the when we were talking about against the Houston
Yeah.
against the Texans that you didn't have Mark Andrews in that game.
And
So
this is
yeah,
also
that's
at Baltimore, if I remember right. So
no, it's in Cincinnati.
since it's okay, I was about to say, 'cause if it's a
Welcome
home
to
game,
the
we definitely need
jungle.
to win it.
welcome to the jungle. Yeah, this game definitely
some cats.
Cincy needs to win this game. They don't need to go down 0-2, and not only go down 0-2, but 0-2 in the
0-2 in
division.
the division.
Yeah, that's yeah. 0-2 in the
That's
division would
huge.
be a big
It's-
black mark for them. early on.
That's rough and that's
Not
hard to
that
come
Cincy
out
can't
of.
overcome this because that offense is still.
They
potent.
could.
I
They
mean, this
could
offense
overcome
wake up any game, and that defense
Exactly.
and the running game's good too. Let's not forget about that with Cincy. But
Now, even if
Listen.
they lost to Baltimore, they could still come from the 0-2 and still make a run and even win the division just because of the way Pittsburgh is, the way we know Cleveland's going to be because they're Cleveland.
Baltimore's injury history could cost
Baltimore's
them down the
injury history.
stretch.
There's a lot of good
Yeah.
football that can be played, and it's in every team in the AFC North. The division's in their own hands.
Well,
That's
honestly,
what it
I
is.
think everybody but the Steelers. The Steelers are just bottom. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
Najee
That
Harris,
may-
that receiving core, and Kenny Pickett. They're the only team. They're going to finish bottom of the division. Everybody else, like you said, it's in their hands. Let's see what they do.
And I agree with you on that. I know here the Yenzers are. Oh, Steelers, we got a chance. No, you really
No.
don't.
Yeah, no,
You're not going to win the
sorry.
division.
Sorry,
you
terrible
get-
town.
You maybe can compete for a playoff spot,
Sorry,
maybe a
not sorry.
wild card.
No,
Their goal.
They're not
they're-
sniffing anything.
I know they're not stiff anything, but their only goal is a wild card. They are not winning the division.
Well, their talk this year was to win the division. It's like
It
we're going to win this
was,
division.
and a lot of
that.
people picked the division and picked them to like win the North and actually get to like the second round of the playoffs. I'm like, you're out of your mind if you think that. I go, your
Yeah.
best bet is you get the last wild card spot and you lose in the wild card round. That's your best. That to me, that's a successful Steelers season.
That would
this
be
year.
a good year. For
That's
them.
successful.
If, they
If
managed to
you
pull
make
that
the
off, that
playoffs,
would be impressive.
Make the playoffs as a wild card, and you lose. You succeeded more than you should because there's no way they're making the playoffs. I'll tell you right now, there's no way they're making the playoffs. If they make a wild card and they
1000%
make that last seed, everyone else above them that should be there played terribly and they limped and lucked their way into it.
Right.
They need the
100%.
Chargers to be the Chargers. They need Miami to have injuries and completely falter. They need Baltimore to falter. They need Cleveland or Cincinnati to falter.
And you need the Jets defense to fall apart. I mean, again,
Mhm.
I don't think they're going to win the division anymore with Rodgers out, but they
Yeah,
they
say
can
the
still,
one
their
weakness that we
defense is
didn't
good
mention
enough to
too
win
was
the
that offensive
division.
line.
That
They don't have
offensive line
or
was
to get to the
horrible for the
playoffs,
Jets.
No, it was. The offensive line was as bad as
cost the
Cincy's.
Yeah, that offensive line actually cost the
Which
season. You can argue for the Jets.
It definitely could. There's lots of talk of that the Jets need to give Brady a call and bring him out of retirement.
I've heard that one. He
That
ain't
keeps
coming.
going left and right. He's not coming. There's talk about
Maybe you might get Fitzmagic. Maybe you get some Fitzmagic in there.
Well, see, and that's one that my wife, who's an avid Jets fan, was really liking until Monday night. I don't know if anybody else is doing this, but on Monday night, in this household, we are into the Manning cast. We watch the Manning cast. We don't care. I don't care that Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are on ESPN. That doesn't
Agreed.
matter to me. I watch the Manning cast because that's worth it. And Fitzpatrick came on and was there through the whole second half.
Yes.
And my wife got a little upset because he was pulling for Buffalo and actually was putting on a Buffalo helmet. And she felt very, very betrayed by Fitzpatrick. So
No Fitz.
He has
no.
like 15 teams that he's played for. So.
yes, but I think he actually really enjoyed himself at Buffalo, because even when he was with Washington his last season, you still see the video of him in Buffalo with his shirt off in the cold, cheering him on. I mean, he went to the game and did that. So I just think he really enjoyed his time in Buffalo. Like, I think he liked all the teams he played for, but he just really thoroughly enjoyed Buffalo. Like, that clicked with him.
And I think they gave him that contract too, so I think that also.
Exactly. But I know that even with all that she would rather have him come play for the Jets than Tom Brady. But there's talk of Carson Wentz being signed. There's
the death of Josh Allen too, man.
Colin Kaepernick's agent reached out to the Jets and said he's ready to go. He's working out on the West Coast. So, of course, anytime anything happens, Colin Kaepernick's name comes up because
he's available.
Why not? Why not?
Was he like?
But I think there's a lot. There's a lot of games coming up next week. In really talking with the Jets and all this that happened with Rodgers going down, which is terrible. I watched Hard Knocks. There was a lot of hope about the season. As I talked to my wife, this is a very Jets thing to happen. It took a lot of air
out of that game. And Zach Wilson, excuse me, he's not the leader you want at all. He's like last year when he started talking about, no, I'm fine. Everything else is the problem. No,
but
Zach
maybe Joe Flacco could come back.
But you know what? You know what? Even with all of that,
I'd take Matt White or whatever the guy from West Virginia was.
Geno Wilson. Geno
Smith. But
Geno Smith played for West Virginia.
But then again,
he's out of Seattle, but he played for the Jets and he played for West Virginia.
Say there was a QB named White that had like 3 or 4 good games
White.
last year.
The thing is,
Mike White.
He's on the Dolphins now. The Dolphins aren't going to give him to the Jets.
No, they won't.
But anyways, even when Zach Wilson came in, they didn't falter. He didn't.
No, because that defense, they didn't move either.
He did.
Garrett Wilson had to come over to him and say, "Throw me the ball and trust me." And that's how they got that touchdown with Garrett Wilson. With an amazing catch that if you have not seen the highlight, please go look at it.
I watched highlight. I didn't. Unlike you, I didn't fall asleep during the game. I watched the whole game.
I saw that one, sir.
And you know
missed the second quarter.
And I watched the whole game. I'm telling you right now that Zach Wilson is not Aaron Rodgers by any means, but you could see that he actually has been listening when Aaron Rodgers was telling him to do stuff during the offseason.
I saw that. No,
because he looked different than he did the last 2 years
in the fourth quarter to finally do anything, and that was with Garrett Wilson prodding his butt. Get out of here with that, Zach Wilson.
Don't get out of here with that. No, I'm not saying that he's
get out of here.
He's gonna.
Use my Jersey accent.
Get out of here. Shut the hell up. I'm telling you right now that I don't think Zach Wilson is. Oh, he's gonna be the savior and he's gonna help the Jets bring him to the Super Bowl. No, but I'm telling you that what I saw last night looked better than any other time he has played for the Jets before. That he looked more secure coming in. Like, he came in when he wasn't expecting to, and you could see Robert Saleh's face, because it's a meme now which I've even seen it on fishing websites of going, hey, you've been planning for you've been looking forward to a fishing trip for 2 weeks, and you're now on your day 2 of no bites. And it's Robert Saleh's face when Aaron Rodgers went down. So I've seen all that. You're not expecting that. All I'm saying is that because my wife is a Jets fan, so I've watched a lot of Jets games, and I watched a lot of Zach Wilson before Aaron Rodgers came there and saw that he was a deer in headlights.
Back in the MILF era.
Which I was about to bring that up. That, as I told my wife, when you think of, who do you want to bring in this aspect? Who do I trust? Do I trust Zach Wilson right now? No. If it was
honestly,
finding the MILF, it was finding the MILF in the bar. Yes, that I trust Zach Wilson to do
honestly,
that.
What he needs to do is he needs to get Gisele Bundchen, because she made Tom Brady great.
Hey, she's right up his alley as far as Mills, and I think he would love that exactly. But I have to say that watching that game, even though it took to the fourth to get him to get it to Garrett Wilson, who made it outstanding catch, even better catch than Odell Beckham's one-hand catch, much better than that, because they actually won the game. Unlike they kept talking about Odell Beckham, where he lost the game and they never
to bounce it
away
away from the defender and then come back and catch it.
catch. Yeah. I hate that how that catch.
I do too.
Still lasts on Lord.
We'll get on that anyway.
They fucking lost.
They did lose the game. They never brought that up, and that's what pissed me off. Right, and my wife got tired of me talking about it. But anyways, Zach Wilson, the way he handled himself after he came in, he to me looked different than I've seen him handle before when he lost the job to Flacco. Like, he looked more prepared by the slight coaching. And watching Hard Knocks, you're able to see how him and Aaron Rodgers were interacting with each other, which I know Jordan Love was watching that going, that motherfucker. He never did that for me.
Right, of course. And I'll say this. I think, again, for whatever it's worth, and Caleb can knock on me for this, but I think that, Zach Wilson's intangibles looked a hell of a lot better than they have in years past.
Well, all I've got to say is I'm going to predict another 40-0 stomping by Dallas Cowboys next week against the Jets.
Oh no, I'm fully feeling that. That's all because and I even told my wife this because she told me, hey, we lost Aaron Rodgers and we still look good. We're still able to beat Josh Allen. I go, yes, you did. And it was an impressive game to watch. However, you didn't have Micah Parsons running after you the entire time.
And Josh Allen threw the ball to the Jets players directly a couple of times.
Without pressure. Without pressure.
Yeah.
It was why are you throwing that ball?
That could be a different discussion for a different week because I'm very concerned about Josh Allen.
If it comes up again, I think we definitely got to bring him up in his turnovers because he had
that's something because
3 interceptions and a fumble.
The Bills take on the Raiders next week, so I think that's a game that we can really get into, especially with that because the Raiders don't have the defense that they've been known to have in the past. Garoppolo had a really good game last week.
They ruined Sean Payton's Denver opener.
They truly did.
Good.
So to be able to, we'll see how Josh Allen, responds going against the Raiders. That's something.
They need to win that game next week. If I'm.
They do need to win that game. They
have jump on the bandwagon of everything's a must-win, Jeff.
Oh no, Buffalo! If you don't win that game.
With all the talk about Buffalo
in the preseason game, so it's not as
when everyone says you're going to win the fucking Super Bowl,
and you go down 0-2, against the Jets and then the Raiders
with no Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just
and Jimmy Garoppolo
go back from losing 2 games in the division. So why can't the Buffalo Bills do it too?
No, the Bills could too. But also, the Bills had more talk of Super Bowl talk than the Bengals did starting the season.
No. Everyone said the Buffalo Bills did. And everyone said the Bengals are winning the AFC North.
No, a lot of people.
They were saying the Bengals were winning the AFC North, but everyone had the Bills in the AFC for the AFC to the Super Bowl. Everyone has the Bills. They had them losing, or maybe a couple of them had them winning against so many different NFC teams, but everyone had the Bills.
The 49ers have been the clear favorite from the NFC.
Why not?
Not from everybody from the big picks. The Eagles have been a big, huge pick. 49ers have been the minor one.
Everyone's been talking about how their defense is falling off because they lost all those players.
I agree with you. I'm just telling you what I've seen from all the talking heads.
Well, again, we know how we trust those talking heads and why we don't listen to them.
Exactly. That's why we're here to debunk.
That's why we have our show. That's why we put everyone in their fucking place.
Exactly. All right. We're going to go ahead and take an NFL break. We'll be back here in just a few short minutes. We're going to go ahead and talk about some NCAA football. And welcome back from the break. We're ready now after great NFL talk to get into NCAA football. And what an exciting week happening here through college football. The first thing we need to bring up to was the upset of the week.
Mm-hmm.
University of Texas going into Tuscaloosa and beating Nick Saban and beating them badly. This game
They did. I mean, it was competitive
was
for
one
like
to watch. It was very
a
competitive.
little
It was
over a
close
half,
scoring.
I'd say. But then Texas just blew it out of the water.
At the end of the third quarter, it
I was
started
about to
going
say, that's
haymaker
when-
after haymaker, and it was an impressive
Yeah.
showing.
Even Matthew McConaughey was yeehawing on the sideline after that one deep catch by the wide receiver.
Well,
for
it
Texas.
started looking like it started giving me memories of the national championship where, okay, we're staying it close, we're keeping it close, but Alabama's going to make a move. And then Alabama scored the touchdown. Or even from last year where Alabama, Texas played, and Alabama scored a touchdown, but Texas scored again. But then Alabama scored again, and you kept thinking, okay, is Texas going to match this? Are they going to continue going on with this? And it was even on the broadcast was going, it's going to be a haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. And that's what it ended up being. And finally, Texas was able to make that stop on the rookie quarterback for Alabama. And it was an impressive showing. It was the win that Texas has been looking for basically since the Vince Young National Championship.
This is a good win. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was about to say that just to piggyback on what Chris said. This is the biggest win for Texas since they beat USC in the Rose Bowl 18 years ago. I mean that's just hands down, without question. That's how important this game was. And then I was following this game live. I wasn't able to watch the video live. I certainly watched highlights after the fact, but I think the general consensus, as far as following the game at least, was okay. Well, of course, Alabama gets their touchdowns. They make it 16-13, and then of course, well, they're going to win. But then Mitchell, 3 plays, touchdown, and then turnover by Alabama, one of the worst interceptions you'll ever see. Texas makes it 27-16. And then even after that, you're worried. You're just like, oh, God, Alabama scores a touchdown immediately afterwards. And you're like, oh, man, it's place at 24. Yeah. But then Texas went down there, drove the length of the field.
Yeah.
And it was it.
No, I'm going to say here, too, though.
What you want to know why, though? The simple.
Well, tell us why, Jeff. Tell us why.
I'm trying to tell you why if you're not going to interrupt me.
Well, hurry up. I thought it was my turn.
So what I'm saying is that this Quinn Ewers, he's going to be a top 10 pick in this draft. He is that good. He is good.
It's a bold statement, Cotton.
Yeah.
Did you see what? Did y'all see what pretty throws he
I watched the entire game.
But yeah, now I'm going to take a different approach than both of you. Now, this is a big win because it's the number 3 team, but slaying Alabama is not necessarily what it used to be. That's not the final hurdle. That's not the final boss in the game anymore. It's a great win. Don't get me wrong. But this is the most penalized team under Nick Saban's career he's ever had at Alabama in a game. Most penalized team in a game.
Yeah, the last time he was that most penalized was against Texas last year.
Yeah, I was about to say this. No. We heard this.
Yeah, it was.
It was this game. No.
Well, yeah,
it was it. Now, let me finish here, too. I'm not done yet.
This game was last year
so
against
now
Texas.
You've got also this other stuff. You've got all this other stuff. You also have a freshman QB for Alabama actually looking like a freshman, which is rare for Alabama. They've been lucky with Tua and Hurts and everybody starting and just being phenomenal when they start. So, I mean, like I said, it's a great win, but at the same time, it's not the final boss. There's still work to do. So I'm hoping Texas doesn't get a little big-headed and say, oh, I've got this. We got an easy road now. They need to make sure they knuckle up and buckle down and keep the pressure on. It's early in the season. And that also being said, Quinn Ewers, he can play himself into a top 10 pick just the way QBs are taken, but he's a game manager. I'm sorry.
Based on what did you see that Quinn Ewers was a game manager? Please tell me. I would really like to know.
The way the game was managed. He controlled the ball. He didn't turn it over. He had a couple good deep passes. Yes.
Sounds like
but that was also in the fourth quarter. It took him in the fourth quarter to finally get a tired defense on the back foot.
You're going against Alabama.
Like I said, they're not the final boss anymore. They're good.
Okay, but
it was a good win. They're number 3, but they're number 3 because of their history.
But regardless, this Alabama defense is loaded with talent. Loaded with 5-star
Their offense
talent.
is loaded with talent.
Okay, but Georgia had taken the same Alabama's taking anybody differently. It's not like USC is taking anybody differently. So
they don't have a defense. They can't take anybody.
No,
USC doesn't have a defense. That's true.
Like any Michigan, whatever you fucking name the program, they have taken all these guys.
Well, my thing is that I did watch the game. I thought Quinn Ewers, to me, looked more focused than he has, especially last year. And I watched as many Texas games as I could that I can get up in the Pittsburgh area. But to me, he seemed not more elite, but more focused. Like he seemed like he was more into the system, I guess you could say. He bought into the system is what it seems like. He's bought into Sarkisian's system. He's ready to go from there.
You could say. I don't think he's
not
bought into it.
To me, it didn't seem more comfortable. It seemed like he had more focus. Like last year, he besides the where he got knocked out of the Alabama game, I mean, he seemed to flourish in the system. So it seemed like he'd already bought in. It just seemed he has more focus. Like he's more knows where he's going with the system. I mean, in a lot of it that was a big talk of in the game, he's got the haircut. Players on the team were saying that he seems more, more direct, more into things. Like he's more focused on what he's into the final destination, where they're trying to go, more than just where it is. So to me, he seems more focused in. I do agree with Caleb to a point that he's a game manager more than an elite top tier quarterback. Well, look, let me explain this before you go over here groaning and moaning and everything. Caleb Williams right now is the number 1 pick and set up to be the Heisman. We can all agree with that. That's what all been set up. Quinn Ewers can play himself into, to me, at what you saw from him before this game in Alabama, from his previous, resume, he was a second-round quarterback. That's what he was. He's able to play himself into a first-round status. And in our previous talk, you said that he could rival Caleb Williams for Heisman.
I think Texas could certainly do at this point. I think if Texas were to go undefeated, even if USC were to go undefeated, Quinn Ewers gets a Heisman Trophy.
Well,
that's possible, especially because Caleb Williams already got it. So it's a lot harder to get it the second time and back-to-back Heismans.
Exactly.
It's hard to do that, but also if they're able to go undefeated and they win convincingly, Quinn Ewers is able to play solid every single game. You're playing against better defenses in the Big 12 right now than you are in the Pac-12. That gives him that little bit of edge.
Right now, Caleb Williams,
better talent.
Or USC is averaging 53 points a game.
Yes.
That's a lot
they
of
haven't
points.
played anybody yet.
It is a lot of points.
I'm not
when
arguing.
You're playing, backwoods talent.
You're
I mean,
playing
you're not
Oregon State.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they haven't played him yet.
I I know.
And they're not
Get
going to
your
play
Pepe
them in the
Ruffle,
regular
calm down.
season when they meet it. If they do meet, which they will meet,
You struck a chord. You struck
I
a
know, it's like I
chord.
had to.
It's not
I
going
poked
to
the
be in the
bear.
regular
I take
season.
Well,
Get your facts straight.
as we're talking about teams that are still hanging around in the Pac-2 or the Tupac, whatever you want to talk about, the other big, even bigger upset, I believe, over Texas Alabama was
Good game.
Washington State knocking out Wisconsin. And that game, wow. I was really taken aback at that game with the way Washington State was able to really, handle Wisconsin and
Yeah, they handled them until
take
like
a hold
the
of that.
quarter.
Yeah.
They had like a 24-point lead, and Wisconsin's like, "Hey, we're here to play." And
They were,
almost
but
did
it
the
was
comeback,
too little,
but-
too late. It was
Yeah,
too little, too late at that point.
Now,
Right,
this is like I'm
exactly.
saying. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant about how the Big Ten and Pac-12 here for a second. Like, and we both all have the same
That's
feeling
why-
about the Pac-12.
That's why
I
I
know.
brought up this game, because I know,
I appreciate
you were really wanting to. You had a rant, and I want you to go for it. So you just take the reins
Yes.
and run with it, my friend.
So we know how bad the Pac-12 is. There's one team in that division
Well,
conference,
it's not,
USC. That's
not
it.
anymore. Not anymore. But they're
No,
all going to
that's
be
it.
gone.
That's it. That's all. Yeah, I mean, they're all going to be gone either way, barring another interesting tackle we'll get into later. But we know that they're garbage. The Big Ten is just as garbage. There's one team, Ohio State, in that conference. Everybody else sucks.
So you're
Wisconsin
saying
losing-
Michigan sucks? So you're saying Michigan sucks, the number
Michigan
2 team
knows
in
it sucks.
the
That's why they
in the
don't
league?
play anybody until the final week of the season. In their hearts of hearts, they know they
True,
suck.
but they
So
are a
it's-
higher seed than Ohio State right now.
Let's read the preseason polls. We know those things always suck.
Okay.
That's
but
always what your heart feels
They're
like. We know they're
higher
bad.
seed.
Michigan sucks. We know
I'm
it.
not.
They're not
I'm
playing
not a fan
anybody
of
for a
Michigan.
reason.
I am stating the facts. That's
You
it.
can state the facts, but I'm saying you got a preseason, so your facts are wrong.
You know
Well,
how
the facts
many?
can be wrong, but
You know
that's
how
what they
many-
are.
Giving you a hard
They're
time,
still
but either way, that's what
number
I'm saying.
2.
The Big Ten is bad as well. There's only
No,
like
no,
two
the
good
Pac-12.
conferences.
Okay, but
Because you know the
Pac-12
ACC sucks too. You got the Big 12 and SEC. Those are the only good conferences overall. The rest of them suck.
The
There's
Pac-12
one team for
doesn't-
like each conference. That's it.
The Pac-12 doesn't.
Now Washington
suck.
State's going to be in the top 25, or they already are. They're in top 23 now,
No,
but
I was about to say
they're not.
You know why
They're not going to sniff the playoffs.
No, you want to know why the Pac-12 doesn't suck? You want to know why?
Is that why?
Oregon State.
Tell me how many teams are in the AP top 25 out of the Pac-12 right now? Tell me.
I don't know.
Oregon, who
Eight.
almost lost
Eight.
to Texas Tech.
Eight.
Yeah, but
Washington, who had a rough
Eight.
they
one.
need teams to fill out the top
freaking
25
teams.
into the actual top 4 good teams.
in the Pac-12.
After that, who cares?
And you know what? And this is what goes back to my opinion that I started off and we discussed ad nauseum during the summer, during the hot dog days of August.
Well, finish your sentence.
These
Come on.
Oregon State teams and Washington State teams are fighting for their dear life because they want to be relevant. They're not going to go to the Mountain West. They want to go to a big time conference, and they're doing.
And they've even
they're
filed
damn
a
well
successful
vested.
injunction to keep the Pac-12 leadership from meeting, so they can't break up the conference.
And so what I'm saying is these teams, the Pac-12 is dead.
It
Pac-12
is because
dead.
there's only 2 teams left: Oregon State, Washington State.
Yeah,
But
that's
Oregon-
too
After
fast.
Stanford
but they're
and Cal went to the
And then your
ACC.
Big 12 goes over, or your Oregon State goes to Big 12.
No, they're forcing. So my point is they're going to force the. They're going to force.
Big 12
the
is better than Mountain West.
That's what. Yeah, they're going to force the Big 12 to take these teams. That's
How are they
I
gonna
mean,
force
Washington
them to
State's
take 'em?
looking pretty good
You
right
can't
now.
You can't force anyone to take anyone. They, as you said, they have to play their way into it. And Washington State helped their efforts
so
by
what I'm
beating
saying-
Wisconsin,
all I've said this whole
Yeah.
fucking time,
especially.
if they play themselves into the conference, they deserve to be into the conference.
Exactly. And
You
that
said
was
about
why I
Oregon
wanted to
State,
bring up
though.
this game, because Washington State with Washington already accepted the bid to go to the Big Ten, and then Washington State beating a powerhouse Big Ten team, that helped them in that aspect.
Oh, for
since
sure.
they're one of the two that are still
Moved them
left
into
that
the
have
top 25 as well overall.
that are unaffiliated. You know,
Yeah, I think
So-
Washington's a sneaky team this year. Or Washington State, excuse me. It's a sneaky team, and congrats on honoring Mike Leach with their Pirate team too during that Wisconsin game.
no, it was
But-
good. It was good. R.I.P.
But,
Mike
yes.
Leach.
Very true. But yeah,
The
like I said, I
Pirate
think
of
Washington
Plains.
State's could be a very interesting team, but I say they're not one of the top teams. They're just not. That's what I'm saying. They got USC
No, they're
is the
not.
only hope of a national championship. Ohio State's the only
It's
hope
not-
of a national
That's not
championship. and the Big Ten.
question.
That's it.
Really, I don't see Ohio State being the only hope for them. I don't think Ohio State is good as they have been
mean,
the last few
People
years.
think
I just
Michigan,
don't.
everybody else
I don't
is.
think they are.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio
It's kinda-
State did have a resurgent game for at least Marvin Harrison. who
They
came
did.
back with
Marvin
127 yards.
Marvin
So good for
Harrison
him.
is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but their quarterback, CJ Stroud left. You have a new quarterback that's come in.
You
He's
do.
still learning the ropes. So I don't see him coming in and just completely
the
dominated
O-line's
about
not
that.
necessarily a
Penn State
dominant
still
one
looks
either.
good too. They still have to get past through Penn State. Penn State is still not an easy win. They're not. Do I see Penn State win the Big Ten? No, but do I see them as an easy win for Ohio State? Not at all. Absolutely
I'm not saying
not.
Penn State's going to be an easy game. I'm just saying Penn State has no shot at a national
Well,
championship.
it also
I
too,
didn't
if
say
you wanna
that,
talk
but you're
about-
also saying
State,
Ohio State's the
it
only one that has
matters.
a chance, and I don't think
And
Ohio
it-
State's going to win the Big Ten.
And also too, if y'all talk about
That's possible.
game managers, look at this Kyle McCord on Ohio State. You want to talk about fucking game manager? That's a fucking game manager right there. And shit, yeah.
We'll fucking
Yeah, it
watch
looks
the
a lot.
tape.
It looks great when you're throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. and handing it off to your 5-star running back and your 5-star offensive line. Yeah, he looks really good there.
I'm sorry. Did we get you heated there?
Well, anyways, one game I know that's coming up because we looked forward into the games that are coming up this next week, and there's no top 25 matchups, so not big. Along with that, a lot of easy wins, but one game that I know we're all looking forward to is Colorado and Colorado State, and Deion Sanders, his son, is just
Stud set a record for most games or most yards in 2 games with 900.
what was it, 531 yards the first game, almost yeah
And then like another
300 something yards the
400.
second game, 400 something, just
Mhm.
set a school record. He's going crazy, and against
And don't
Nebraska,
forget
in week-
about Hunter.
well, in week 2 against Nebraska, they debuted the turnover thrown, which to me is the most Deion primetime Sanders thing you can do. Is you don't have a chain, you don't have something else, you have a throne that when you guys have a turnover, they get to go sit on the throne and pose for the photos and everything on the throne.
Yeah.
That to
Although
me
it's
is
kinda
just
like you made a good job.
absurd.
Go sit in the corner.
Exactly. I see that. It is just, to me, it's absolutely over the top absurd, which I fully expect from primetime. But I want to know, was this just done for Nebraska at home, or is it coming back here at home against Colorado State? Is this only a home throne? Does this throne travel? Do you know, is this an every week thing that we get to look
Oh,
forward
this-
to the
this
turnover
will
throne?
travel.
I
This
think
will
Or is it just
travel.
or is
This
it
will-
just when they're at home in Boulder?
No,
That,
this
I
will
need to know.
travel. This will travel as long as Deion wants it to say it's going to travel.
Now, if it does
Uh,
travel, do they have the throne master, the jester who takes care of it? I mean, there's so many questions that I have. I need
I
answers
don't know.
to.
I don't know if Deion can get his ex-wife Pilar to orchestrate the throne or oversee the.
We don't
throne.
talk about Pilar with Dion. That's personal. We don't talk
Sure.
about that. We don't get into that. But that's something I'm curious to see, is if the throne's going to continue on and going on for that. Because to me, that
Oh,
was
sure.
the most,
To me,
that was
that's
the most prime time thing that I could see, is that he actually debuted an actual throne. And there's,
Yep.
look it up online. We
Forget
can
the
tag
chain.
it. We can send a link of it to our Twitter page so you can take a look. Send you on that, Jeff.
The thing is, Dion he's a politician. That's what he is.
Yeah.
So he's going to keep everything going and keep everything going 500 miles an hour until it's not popular anymore. And so he'll bring it on the road. He'll bring everything on the road. He'll make any kind of new promotion possible. Why? Because it's Dion. And
he wants to bring the Buffalo on the road.
And also, too, I think another thing.
They should. He's the mascot.
I think what's interesting about this is that not only Dion brought in the other college football fan that doesn't follow the traditional college football teams, but I think he's actually got women interested in watching college football for at least a quarter. And maybe. I mean, when you look at Fox's television ratings, they equaled the same amount for a Colorado-Nebraska game, which combined for 5 wins last year. The same ratings they had with Texas and Alabama. That is huge. Now, granted, there's the whole spectrum issue with Texas and Alabama.
It was also one of the early games too.
Well, that's my point. Is that you're going up against Texas and Alabama in prime time, and you're able to get a comparable rating to that. That is unbelievable. So I think, again, at least from an entertainment perspective, this is unbelievable too. So,
we'll definitely. Well, Jeffy, if you could send a link to that Colorado turnover thrown over to our Twitter, so we can share that with you and get that in. That way you can
plaster it up here for a second.
Enjoy with it, and please feel free to interact with us. Send it out to our Twitter and let us know about things you want us to talk about. But we're going to go ahead and take a break here, and we'll be right back.
I want to do props to Texas Tech.
Texas
Tech should have beat Oregon.
But they
give a little love to Texas Tech because they should have beat Oregon, but they kind of stubbed their toe.
Where they barely beat Oregon. They fucked up against Wyoming. They shit the bed. So that's 0-2 after Joey McGuire ran his mouth all summer down here.
Is it that they should have beat Oregon, or Oregon just wasn't playing up to their level against them? Which way really is that going?
Most likely. Oregon probably looked past this game and played a little higher after losing to Wyoming, not wanting to go 0-2.
Well, no, Oregon finally showed up at the end. That was the thing. That's how I
Texas Tech gave them the ball, basically. That was the problem.
But Oregon showed up. You know, they what they did is they started off this game 15-7, right? And then so Bo Nix was playing lights out. Tyler Shuck for Texas Tech had a horrible start to the game, and then they got Oregon got lackadaisical. They got lazy in the third quarter, and then Oregon just turned it on again. To me, Oregon was by far the more talented team than Texas Tech. That's kind of what I got out of this game.
Yeah, they absolutely are more talented, but good for Texas Tech. They put on a fight. They put on a good effort there. Just weren't able to finish off at the end as other teams were. And my apologies to the 2 Texas Tech fans that will yell at me for not bringing up their team. And Champion Keller for bringing them up. Exactly. But we're going to go ahead and pivot over. We're going to get ready to we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with everyone's favorite segment, What the F with Jeff. Be right back in just a moment. What the f***? And welcome back from the break. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, What the F with Jeff. So, Jeff, what the F?
So I know we've been talking about a while. Maybe we change some things with WTF with Jeff. Maybe someone else has something on their mind, but this is something that I just could not ignore. So yesterday afternoon, I was looking at articles online about betting, and then there was an article to where DraftKings had issued an apology about a parlay which they issued. So for those that don't know what a parlay is, that's a multiple team bet to where you have to win successfully to win. And so this was
Every team has to win, or
correct,
player has to
or
reach a
cover the
certain
spread.
level.
So
Yeah.
every bet you make on that bet slip that you make, they have to either cover the spread or win the spread. All three teams have to do exactly what you asked them to do. So basically,
Is it just 3 teams on a parlay, or is it as many as you want?
You could have a 3-team parlay. You could have a 4-team, 5-team, 7.
Wanted to bring that up there for anyone who didn't know.
Right, exactly. And so for this parlay that DraftKings came up with was called the. I cannot believe I'm saying this right now. This is not a joke. It's called the 9/11 Never Forget Parlay. So this was a parlay that was created by DraftKings that allowed you to take the Yankees, the Mets, and the Jets to win all of their games last night and cover the spread. Or actually no, I believe it's money line. So which money line means that they just won the game outright. And so I've never heard. I mean, I've heard of promotions on bets before and on holidays, but to me, this is just so distasteful. And who in their right mind, like, they would have had to have like a team meeting or a board meeting to discuss how this was going to go down and how many people thought this was a good idea. I was just completely baffled, and I was just going to see what y'all thought about it. I know myself personally, I'm more of a gambler than y'all are, but to me, this is just unbelievably distasteful, and I just could not believe how anyone could come up with this. And are we really that desperate?
Go ahead, Caleb. You go ahead first.
No, like I said, I mean, I think part of it's the fact that gambling is usually considered with sinful activity, or it's looked down upon. It's not considered one of the good traits to have in life. So when you compare it with such a tragic event at the same time, it's just not the way to go with it, especially in today's society. To pair those type of things together when you should be remembering even more respectful ways. But like I said, there probably was a meeting and someone said, or the majority enough said, hey, let's do this. But at least everybody has already made them apologize for it and says you're wrong. And DraftKings has admitted that they're wrong now. So that's at least a plus. But it is crazy, I think, that it got out there to begin with.
Very good points there, Caleb. I agree with you on a lot of that. But I also think that a lot of this is, gambling is gambling. You're going to take, before all this happened, since 9/11 has happened, people have been gambling on games on 9/11. So to me, that's nothing different than what's been going on in the past and the future. By doing it on that's them taking, that's, as you come down to the socialist capitalism talk, which we don't go into politics here on this podcast, but that part comes in. That's the bad side of capitalism. Capitalism has its good and bad sides. To me, capitalism is always better than socialism. However, it does have a bad side, and that bad side comes out in this aspect where somebody said, hey, it's been long enough since 9/11. Let's take advantage of this and see if we can take advantage of the momentum of, hey, we have the pride of New York. Let's take the momentum and let's do the betting on that. And let's go with the pride of that. We're showing the pride. I really believe that whoever sold this was selling it as, we're doing this for pride, but it got taken the wrong way. That's the reason why. I don't think that anyone who sold, like whoever was on the marketing team or this aspect, I honestly don't believe that they honestly had ill will in their mind when they were bringing this up as their idea. I think it was maybe, I'm spitballing here. I don't know for sure who did this or who did what, but it was probably
weren't in the room that it happened, as Alexander Hamilton
someone
said.
New making their name and said, hey, and I'm thinking of this as the way I would sell this if I was trying to sell this to a group of executives. Hey, we've got the Jets at home on 9/11. We've got the Mets and we've got the Yankees. Why don't we make a parlay bet on all three and we really bring in the whole aspect of New York City, and we bring in the whole aspect of let's root for all three teams and let's bring it all in because it's 9/11, that we're all trying to get this unity of bringing everybody in, and we make it a parlay bet of all three teams, two different sports to bring in, so that we bring in this unity that we've had for 9/11 to bring everything in. I'm not saying that's what they did, but if I was trying to sell that as a young person to the executives of FanDuel, that's how I would sell it.
I mean, that's how you would sell it, but just like, how could they have thought that this was going to go over?
Well, that's the whole thing, is that it was brought up to the executive of, it's a unity thing. It's a whole, this is how we bring a unity part of the aspect of bringing it all in. Now, did it backfire? Yes, it did. But you're asking, how did they think that this would work? Well, a lot of times these advertising agencies, these casino agencies, that's how they find out things work or they don't work. Sometimes they throw shit against the wall to see if it sticks.
Yeah.
Is it the right way to do it? No, it's not. But if you're asking me, how did they come up with this? Why did they think this work? I just gave you a reason why. Of if I was, to me, these executives that are putting these out, they're not coming up with the ideas. They're getting pitched ideas and they're going, okay, yeah, that's a good one. Or here's the tweak of the way we do it. Maybe it was tweaked an idea of, it goes, hey, we have the Jets playing the Bills, at MetLife on 9/11. Let's do a bet going along with 9/11 to go with that. And some exec goes, oh, well, you know what? The Yankees and the Mets are going to be there as well. Let's make it a parlay. We could throw it all together. And that, we bring that unity of all these teams together as the unity of New York together here, as this parlay for betting. You could bring the unity in for all that, but when you bring it in as a betting aspect, that's not actually the aspect you want to bring unity in for everybody when betting is you versus the house. So I see where it could have been. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say though, but also too, like, yeah, it does seem insensitive, but then also at the same time, why at Mexican restaurants do we celebrate 9/11? Or I mean, excuse me, not 9/11, Cinco de Mayo, or why do we have July 4th specials at bars? Why do we have Memorial Day sales or Labor Day sales and everyone else. So
why do at bars do we celebrate St. Patrick's Day against and do that against the Irish culture?
Right, exactly. So I guess maybe to me, I brought this up in kind of another form is the fact that, okay, if you're going to get so sensitive about this, then what about all the other holidays that we just commemorate and then we turn into drinking days? That's probably not appropriate.
Memorial Day,
Well,
Labor Day.
If you look at America's history, unfortunately, being racist is American as apple pie in America. But that being said, these have been the traditions. So that's what bars will go to. They'll say, oh, okay, people are coming here on these days. Let's have the specials. That's why everyone will have the specials moment. Not necessarily saying it's right or it's wrong, but
yeah,
that's what
at the end of the day, the never forget 9/11 parlay, to me, I don't gamble. Mainly because I personally don't have the money to gamble. I have 2 children I need to take care of. I don't need to be gambling away their money to take care of them. But at the same way, if you want to gamble with your money, that's your choice to do. And sure. if a company is putting out a special parlay that you get to make money on, then you know what? To me, this is capitalism. There's good and bad parts of capitalism. We all know that. But it's capitalism. You can either choose to do it or not. So at the end of the day, it doesn't affect me. I didn't even know about it. So it didn't affect my life. So you know what? My life went on just fine on 9/11. I was able to remember everything that happened that day. I was able to enjoy the festivities before the Jets-Bills game. And, have my remembrance. My wife's uncle was actually in one of the World Trade Center buildings, was able to safely make it out before they collapsed. So, I mean, I have some history with my family because of that. So I was able to have my remembrance, respect that. But you know what? I didn't even hear about this until today. Didn't affect my life. So if you want to get, this comes down to, if you want to get offended by something, then get offended. You don't have the right to not get offended. You don't have that. That's not a right. People can do, businesses can do these things. You don't have to like it. If you don't like it, don't support it. If you're a gambler and they want to put this parlay bet, never forget parlay bet, then you know what? Then don't bet with DraftKings. Go bet with other services. They are all over the place nowadays. You can find them very, very easily. So if that offends you, then don't you know what? You have the right as a consumer to not use that service. In a communist country, you have to use the services, whatever is dominated by the state. In a capitalist economy, you have the choice. You don't have, if you don't like what a company has, you don't have to support them. So in that aspect, there are other betting agencies. If you decide you want to go make your bets, by all means, you don't have to use DraftKings. There are plenty. Every single, I know MGM has advertisements all the time. All of the Vegas casinos
Bovada
have gone online because they know they're going to lose money if they don't. They're all online now. They learned all that during COVID. They lost so much money, they had to go online so that they could continually make money. You have a plethora of areas to bet. You don't have to use DraftKings. If you're offended by that, you're just throwing that to grandstand. Stop it. Use the capitalist system. Go bet somewhere else. That's how you fix something. If you don't like something, you don't give them money. You go somewhere else. Don't try to make them do what you want to do to then give them money. Go somewhere else. There's too many other options. Go somewhere else and bet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I guess you answered my question there. There's no line of insensitivity we would cross.
No, there's not. How many they bet on the freaking coin flip on the Super Bowl. They bet on what commercial is going to happen first. Betting has no conscience.
Well, no, I agree with that, but at the same time, too, it's just like,
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it goes back to, like, you could say, yeah, I don't like that, but at the same time, you don't have the right to say the company has to change it. The company can do what they want, and in this instance, they apologize.
Yeah, they did.
Great.
They did, but I mean, just like, did they really?
You have the right, if the company screwed you over, that they have to reimburse you. But
sure, yeah,
you don't have the right to say they can't do this bet.
Oh, I mean, they could. You could do whatever they want. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
But I mean,
they don't have
how
to.
Did they? But how did they think that this was going to work out for them?
They
thought they could make money off of it. That's why.
It's probably, like you said, the pride issue is probably what got brought up in the sale, and like you said, it just came out wrong.
Hey, they thought they could make money on it. At the same time, do I think FanDuel should apologize for it? No. Don't apologize for it. Or DraftKings. Don't apologize for it. No, you put this betting line out here. This is what we have. If you don't like it, you don't have to bet with us. That's the thing. If you're going to that's the thing that's lacking nowadays in society. Sorry to go off on this kind of realm, but if you make a decision, you need to back your decision and follow through with it. Whether you're right or whether you're wrong, you back the decision because you made the decision to do it. Making the right or wrong decision is better than making no decision at all.
Well,
and too many people don't make decisions nowadays.
I agree with you right there. Like, yeah, make a decision and you can stick with it, but you can also admit when a decision is wrong. You don't have to just say that.
Absolutely. You can admit if you're wrong, but you still back your decision.
Yeah, it's like, I did it. It was wrong.
I made the decision. Now, the decision may have ended up being wrong, but that's the thing, is that people are like, well, you made the wrong decision. Well, I don't know if I believe I made the wrong decision. I believe I made the right decision. Just because you believe it's wrong doesn't mean I believe it's wrong.
No,
that's the whole thing. So if it comes out that, hey, I made the wrong decision because the decision I made didn't make the money that we thought we should have made, okay, yes, I made the wrong decision, but I made a decision. Now, when it comes down to the aspect of I made what I believe is the right decision, but you on the outside believe I made the wrong decision, okay, that's great. But what does your opinion matter to me in the business if there's only one to a couple of you who think that I made the wrong decision, but the vast majority of my customers think I made the right decision? I'm not going to apologize to you. You can go buy from someone else. That's fine. That's capitalism.
That's, like you said, that's how you should do it in capitalism. If you don't like, say, Chick-fil-A's history with the anti-gay message or whatever, don't go buy them.
Go to Popeyes.
I love Chick-fil-A personally, but
go to Popeyes. They make a great chicken sandwich too. Guess what? KFC makes a good chicken sandwich. Go buy a sandwich from them. You don't have to force these companies because to follow your.
I think part of this too is that it's kind of the old, when you write your congressman feels that more people are behind it. Like if you write a letter, your congressman may say, oh, that's probably 100 people, just 99 didn't want to write me. Oh, someone's going to quick blurb me. There may be another 10 for that blurb. And so you weigh how much it is and how much of a PR hit it is probably what these companies do more often than not to judge, oh, should I apologize or should I just be like, you know what, go buy your chicken somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more of I need appreciation nowadays that everything's online. Everyone can post their opinions and you can do it anonymously. It's not the whole write things in.
This is BS.
It is. Which, if you're going to put your opinions out there, go ahead and face the music.
Put your name with it.
More people, that's why more people will do it, because they don't have to face the opinions, which comes down to like voting for the Baseball Hall of Fame. The one guy that didn't vote for Jeter to get in, I'm sorry. You know he was a Red Sox fan. He did it anonymously. I'm sorry. If you're going to vote, and I'm not a Jeter fan by any means, but you know what? If I was going to vote Jeter to get into the Hall of Fame, I would have put my name on it to be, I'm the guy that said that. I'll be the guy that do it. But to do it anonymously, that's chicken shit. But anyways,
that's true.
Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap that segment up. We'll be back and we'll go into Sports Gumbo right after this.
That's good. That's good. Man, that's good. That's what you call gumbo. Poor man gumbo.
And welcome back to the broadcast as we're ready to jump into the Sports Gumbo. And the first sport that we want to jump into here is the FIBA basketball. That's all getting wrapped up, and I'm going to go ahead and toss this right over to Jeff. Jeff, take it away.
So, once again, a typical poor performance from the United States in the FIBA World Cup. I mean, what else is new? And then, of all teams, Germany wins. Serbia are the runners-up. Canada's third place, and then Slovenia doesn't even make the Final Four, which is actually pretty surprising to me. But again, this goes back to the mindset that the United States has always had about the FIBA World Cup, is the fact that it's all about the Olympics for them. And is that a good mindset? Do we care about the FIBA, or should we care about FIBA? I don't know. Clearly, our organization doesn't care about winning or competing in FIBA at this point when Jalen Brunson is your best team in the FIBA World Cup. So I'll see what y'all think about that.
Yeah, so it's one of the youngest teams out there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Walker Kessler.
Yeah, no,
excuse me, it's 7'1". Yeah, the backup center for Utah Jazz, I believe, is your tallest player at 7'1", but your starting center, Jaren Jackson, is at 6'10".
Jaren Jackson's not a starting center. He's
he's not.
Yeah, he's a power forward at
was
best.
constructed and lineup suggested it wasn't good.
Let's just go through this team right now. I'll run off very quickly here in
15
seconds. Tyrese Halliburton, Michael Bridges, Cameron Johnson, Brandon Ingram, Paolo Banchero, Bobby Portis, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Jaren Jackson, Walker Kessler, Austin Reeves. To me, the only guy that I would like to have on our dream team, or if would be Anthony Edwards.
Absolutely. Anthony Edwards has been the best player on this team. To me, the FIBA is a testing grounds to how good the European teams are for the Olympics. These aren't our best players aren't going to play in this. They're going to play in the Olympics where it actually matters. The FIBA championship doesn't matter to American athletes and to American.
It doesn't care to U.S. the basketball organization overall.
No, it doesn't. Because if it did,
they don't care about.
They would actually prioritize playing at least replays of the games in prime time. But no, the game. No one's watching those, and then they don't play them later on.
Or was that?
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Porter kind of break up for a second.
Porter broke up for like 5 seconds, but he's okay.
Okay. Well,
okay. Where did I break up at?
You said it was a practice point for these our young Americans competing against the top.
Okay. I'll go ahead and just start that whole thing over.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. So it's just a practice point for these guys. I mean, the Americans, we don't see FIBA as being, as high as the Olympics. So, I mean, we don't even get the repeats. Like, these games start at 6:30, 8:30 in the morning in Eastern Standard Time. So they don't even play them after. We don't get a repeat of them
Yeah.
later on in the day, such as when NFL games or something playing over
The
in
games are
Frankfurt,
tied
Germany
more
or
to the
something.
European countries time frames than they are the
Well,
U.S.
true, and that's what it is. So at FIBA, it is more of like we're not sending Steph Curry, we're not sending LeBron James to this. If it's the Olympics, that is a more prestigious event that we're going to actually send, and more people are going to tune into along with that. But when it comes to
And that's
this,
also why this loss is not as big a news reverberating through the sports world as when we had to call up
no,
the Redeem team.
it's not, because it's been this way ever since they set FIBA up. Now, yes, the hardcore basketball fans are going to be, well, why isn't America not winning? Well, there's a reason why America's not winning, because America, like, all this comes down to, as they keep talking about, why are the international stars now the MVP candidates? Why aren't we having USA MVP candidates? Why is the the Denver Nuggets won the championship led by an international player, Nikola Jokic.
Very good international.
A very good I mean, he's been fantastic for years. There's a reason why he's won MVP the last 2 years before Joel Embiid won it this year. Joel Embiid is an international player. There's a reason why. And to me, the reason why is back during the Dream Team in 1992 that went through Europe, and it was Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Scottie Pippen, Karl Malone,
Charles
David
Barkley,
Robinson,
John Stockton,
Charles
go down the
Barkley,
list.
John Stockton. One of the best teams of all time came through Europe, and
that's
all of these
arguably the best team.
all of these players that are now the best players in the NBA were influenced by them. I want to be like them. It completely revolutionized the way European basketball was done, where you're getting go through the top 10 best players in the NBA right now, and how many of them are from the United States. You used to say 8 to 9. Now you're saying 3 to 4.
It's about 5 and 5 or something like that. Yeah.
If you're lucky.
3 and 4.
If you're lucky, I can tell you right now, Luka Doncic, Giannis,
Steph, Kevin Durant probably in there.
Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic. Right there.
Don't forget about him.
Top 5. You have 3 of them as foreign-born players. Joel Embiid. There. Now you're 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, I think we sometimes overrate our influence. Look, don't get me wrong. Our influence was huge in 1992 Barcelona. We did so much to influence basketball in the European countries. But at the same time, think about it this way. Like, maybe these European teams are kind of taking it on as a World Cup deal, like in soccer, but we don't do that. We're all about our own teams. We're all about our own leagues. And why do you think England soccer doesn't really is not really as successful as they are in the World Cup in soccer or in the Euro final in soccer? It's because they care about their leagues more than they do theirs. So I think that could be the whole issue within itself, and it seems like no one wants to address that topic.
That's actually a good comparison, bringing in how England looks at their soccer, Because when it comes down to a lot of conversations about America versus the world, and of course, with the FIBA, everyone's been saying, well, you can't call yourself the world champion when you're not playing against the world. Well, at the end of the day, when I hear that conversation, I go, the NBA has a team in Toronto. So it's not just America. If that's your conversation, it's just America that's playing, you're not the world champion, the American championship. Well, we do have another country that's in it, we do.
Yeah.
So
Well,
to me, that's you just trying to, compare apples to oranges.
Well,
but
no. So my point is that the fact that my point is with that is like Toronto could be in Albuquerque for all I care. My point is the fact that we care about our league sports most when it comes to basketball.
That was the point I was bringing up. That
okay.
we do care about our sports more. I was just bringing up the whole world aspect of everyone's saying because the USA lost, oh, well, you can't call yourself the world champions when you win the NBA championship. You should call yourself the NBA championship. Well, at the same time, yes, the world is getting onto the level of American sports teams, but at the same time, what other league in the world is higher than the NBA?
Nothing.
There's not. That's the reason why these world players are coming to play for NBA teams. And they come to play there to be the world championship. So, yes, it is an NBA championship. You're playing against the best. Give me, okay.
And that's why MLS players in soccer come to play for EPL and then vice versa. And all
exactly. That. It's for that same reason. If you want to sit there and pull the world championship thing, then okay, then go start a league over in Serbia and make it to the level that the NBA is so that the NBA championship could then play against you and not get destroyed by 60 points.
And we're not there
yet. Then you can talk about a world champion. But at the same time, build a league that's going to bring in the best players in the world that's going to be able to compete against them, and absolutely go for it. But right now, guess what? You're not going to be able to, because these leagues were started years and years and years ago when a lot of these other countries were still dealing with war, with political upheaval.
Yes.
Sorry that America had that stability and set these sports up, which they didn't know would last this long, wouldn't turn into what they were, that they are now. Don't get mad that we set this up 100 years ago and it turned out to be what it is now. No one knew basketball at the time when it was set up. Oh, a lot of people were mad because we have white guilt for being able to set it up because we're in America and we have this all set up and everything's all great and everything's all good. So everybody else should have it all good too. There was a lot of work that built these sports up to what they are. They didn't immediately become multi-billion-dollar industries out of nowhere. There's a lot of work that was built into these. So that's the fault I have with saying, oh, you're not the world champion because you lost here in the FIBA.
Right.
I'm sorry. FIBA doesn't matter to me when it comes to world championship. That Olympics, when America loses in the Olympics, absolutely. We're not world champions. Whoever won is the world champion. That to me is the world champion. But don't sit there in FIBA and sit there and throw it in everyone's face and say, oh, well, because you won the NBA championship doesn't mean you're not the world champion. That's not the same team that won the championship this last year.
That's
not Denver's team.
When we put our best talent in there, we're going to win every single time. Hands down. That's
the problem is getting all of those guys to come in and come play.
And that's the thing. You can't do it. And so what's going to be interesting, though, I don't think we're at this point yet. Because I think it's going to be like the same for U.S. soccer on the flip side, right? So say maybe one day MLS teams can get in the Champions League team, and then maybe one day these Euro leagues can get into a Champions League for the NBA, and that's, I think, probably the path we're looking towards to down the line.
It's a possibility.
The question is, though, there's not going to be interest enough in America to do that. Why? Because the NFL exists. That's
exactly. Why. And you know what? And because I believe that in the English Champions League, they would just to make America their lower league where they sent the losers down to, like they do. They would do that to the American League. That's exactly what they would do.
They Ted Lasso us.
They would Ted Lasso the hell out of it. That's exactly what they would do. But anyways, we've had a good talk about that. That's good. Any other conversation you want to have, send it in the comments. We'll go from that. Let's go ahead and jump into Major League Baseball. We need to hit this here at Sports Gumbo before we wrap it up for the night. The Rangers now a game out of the division lead out of Houston. After last week, I think we only need a little bit of crow.
They've been playing well. Ranger shirt for tonight.
You've been wearing it all again. You've been wearing it all broadcast. That's absolutely been shown. So the Rangers have been looking good.
We're ahead in the wild card right now.
We're ahead in the wild card, and honestly, we talked about this at length.
Mr. Doom and Gloom, we're not making the playoffs at all, and we're like,
exactly, Mr. Doom and Gloom.
But we all did write the fact that we didn't have that there was.
If he was back on the bandwagon, he'd be wearing the hat, but he's not wearing the hat, so he's not back on the bandwagon.
No,
I'll call you out.
I see it here, but I'm not putting it on yet.
All right.
Hey, the American League is wide open. Houston's shown that by losing the last 2 games against the A's, which helps us be a game back from them in the division. Minnesota, even though they abused us,
the Rays,
they did. They beat the Rays. Baltimore lost one of their best relief pitchers in Bautista. There's a lot going in the American League.
On a losing streak.
We're a half game ahead of them in the division. There's a lot going on. This is some exciting baseball to be watching. And on top of that, we don't have
those who can.
We don't have the Braves and the Dodgers to deal with. The only time we'd have to deal with the Braves or the Dodgers is in the World Series. As bad as we have been, we're starting to hit an uptick right now here in September, which, Caleb, you and I talked about this and tried to Mr. Jump off the ledge over here multiple times. There was time left to stay in the playoffs when Mr. Jump off the ledge was the Rangers are done. They're never getting the playoffs. There's no chance at all. There is a good chance here, and there's an easy chance of getting in because we don't have to deal with the 2 best teams in the Major League Baseballs, which I said baseballs. I just realized that. In Major League Baseball, we don't have to deal with the best 2 teams, the Atlanta Braves and the Dodgers. We don't have to deal with them until the World Series.
Seattle. We've got enough on our hands right now.
We got enough on our hands, but at the same time, the teams we have to deal with aren't as good as those 2 teams. Those 2 teams are going to meet in the National League Championship Series and beat each other up. And we
hoping they get there because that'd be great ratings.
Oh, they're going to be there. That's going to be those 2 teams. They're going to meet. It's going to happen.
It should be. But again, playoff
They'll
baseball.
Be 1 and 2. They're 1 and 2.
Get ready.
It can be. It's not as crazy as NHL playoff.
No, that's true.
We're not going to have our Bruins.
Yeah, we're not going to have a Bruins on the National League side. Now, in the American League side, that could happen because there's a lot of parity there.
Yeah,
that I could see happening. The Rangers do have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rangers do have a chance. I mean,
yeah, they got to win the division again.
They
Crazy.
do. They do because Houston is faltering. And that's the whole thing is that Houston
Houston and
last
Seattle are both
week
faltering.
drilled us. They drilled the Rangers 3 games in a row, scoring
They
over 12
carotted
runs
us.
every single game. And it was an embarrassment. It truly was. At that point, I was like, okay, maybe Jeff's right. Maybe we're done. But you know what? They circled the wagons. They took the beating. They took it on the chin like Rocky Balboa, and they started swinging back. And you know what? After that success, it looks like Houston was like, okay, we beat the Rangers. We're good. And then they got punched in the mouth multiple
Exactly.
times.
By the A's.
A's of all people.
They
2 losses
the-
in a row when we've had 2.
But even
wins
The
before-
A's know how to
Huge.
win a division game. I'll give them
That's
that.
huge.
right before the Astros swept the Rangers got punched in the mouth by the A's as well. The A's you can't look over. Even when they suck and they're already out, you can't look over them because they
Yeah,
have
even though
nothing.
They're already eliminated.
They have nothing to play for except for knocking you out. And
what's
you know what?
amazing?
When pro players, when they don't have the pen to play for, they have nothing to play for. You know what? Because I worked for a semi-pro team, I learned from multiple guys who had been in the majors. Hey, if we know we're not going to win and we know there's no hope, we'll play just to knock somebody else out.
Right.
And if
yeah,
we
your
can knock
rival or
somebody
division
out of
person-
it, then we're going to do it.
You know what's amazing is that the A's have won 6 out of their last 10 games. And the A's.
Don't call it a comeback.
Yep. Well, there's no way to call the comeback. They're eliminated. But
True.
that right there shows you it's we know we're out. There's no chance we'll make the playoffs. So you know what? Let's fuck someone else. All we got to do is win. Let's go out there and play because everyone's gonna play their least effort against us because of how bad we've been. So let's go out there and let's fuck someone else's chance. Hey, we're already done. We know we're not going to make the playoffs, so let's go ahead and screw you, especially if you're a division opponent.
Right.
If we can screw you. Oh, hell yeah. No, we don't care if the Rangers or the Astros win the pennant, win our division. But you know what? When we're there, we're gonna beat you, so you will lose. If they beat you, if they beat you, we don't care. If they win it, we don't care. If you win it, we don't care. But we're not gonna let you win it. Screw you. If I beat you today and you're gonna lose the pennant because of it, then I'm gonna beat you. That's all I have to win. That's all I have to play for. And that's what some of these. If you have that on your team and you're professionals on your team, why wouldn't they? If they wouldn't want to, screw somebody else because we're not going to win it, then they've lost that competitive edge.
And so maybe that's biased you too. Maybe I said because I believe I said in this podcast last week, like you can't evaluate everything about 135 games, but hell, that doesn't mean there's not 27 games left to go. So maybe, just maybe, we can get this done.
There's a chance.
I don't
So
know.
you're saying there's a chance.
Of course, there's a chance, but it was.
Mr. Hanging my
We have
finger
a
down. It's a
long way to
butthole
go.
on the ledge.
We have a long way to go, but hey,
I'm Jim Carrey, Dumb and Dumber in it.
the thing is just that we did as ugly as it was against Oakland, which is pathetic. We still got 2 out of 3.
Hey,
But
we
the
got
key
2 out of 3.
I know, but the
Win's
key.
a win. Who cares if
but
it's
the-
ugly?
No, but the key this week though has been getting the wins against the Blue Jays. That's been the key.
Well, we talked about that earlier. That if we talked about that a couple weeks ago. That hey, worst case scenario, if everything goes bad, the Blue Jays is a series that we need to go ahead and win, even if everything goes bad. We talked about that weeks ago. So
and we've got the first two.
We have. So we've won the series. That's good. It's building on to that. It's building up to it. Now, when we were talking about this, we were going worst case scenario. At that time, we didn't think that Houston would have the losing streak that we are. Because I can tell you right now, when we were 3 games down, I didn't think we were catching Houston. I thought Houston was going to go ahead and run away with the division, and we were going for a wild card spot at this point. That's exactly what I thought in my head. Now that we're a game back and Houston cannot seem to find a win against Oakland.
That is unbelievable.
Are they the team? Yeah, the way that they beat us in that 3-game series where I said beforehand, this is going to be the series that defines us. This is where we need to actually show who we are. And we got beat over the head. Like we got sent behind the woodshed. And we got beat every single game. Every single game we got sent behind the woodshed, and we got our asses whipped. Every single time.
Yes.
I'll be honest. I gave up. I go, you know what? Why am I rooting for them?
Right. Exactly.
They're not giving there's no reason for us to root for.
Right.
And
exactly. I gave up.
I did too. And you know what?
Well, we knew the wild card was it.
Well, true. I still thought the wild card was still available.
Mhm.
But I go, how are you gonna respond from that? Like that was a beatdown. It really was. And now, before we started the broadcast day, I looked at the standings and saw, hey, we're only a game back, and I've been checking on. Like, well, we've been beating Toronto. We're doing well. Holy shit! Like we're still in this. Like we can still come back. Okay, was this the storm that I was worried about? Are we now out of that storm? I don't know. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know, but I feel better.
It's in the baseball god's hands now.
It is. I feel better about it now than I did a week ago. I can tell you that.
Scherzer looked good. And then
He did.
Also, too, what we have to hope for is that Montgomery comes back and has a great start tomorrow. Because if we could get 3 out of 4 in Toronto, yeah.
Well, we talked about that before, that we needed that regardless of what happened, we needed 3 out of 4 in Toronto.
Yes.
If not a
At
sweep.
least.
We talked about that even before we even got to the series. That
sure.
no matter what happened, we needed that.
We said that last week, like you said.
We said 2 weeks ago, because
Yeah,
we needed to be at that point.
Sure.
This was the point that we needed to actually get. We could get wins in division, but we needed to get them outside the division. Toronto was a wild card threat that we needed to take care of. So being able that we have now 2 wins with them, that's good. Get 1 more. Hey, if you get the Caesars sweep, even better. The Rangers are in a better spot right now than what we feared they were in last week, and that's all we can ask for.
100%.
All right. Was there anything else here in the gumbo that you guys wanted to touch up on before we go ahead and wrap it up?
No, I just need to. I want to put my Rangers helmet on again.
No,
Talked him
don't
into
you?
it.
I'm
no,
not
now
doing
at
it.
the end.
I'm not doing it now. I just saying I want to put it on next week.
Oh,
Okay.
next week. Okay. All right, I'll get to if you're doing good. Don't you give parameters. Right.
Well,
Anyways, Anyways, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us again for another great week, another great episode. We're so thankful for all of you that are listening in to us. Please share us with your friends, with everyone on social media. Let's help build this up to something bigger, help bring this up to a, different than the sports talk that you hear out on the national airways. We want to be, we want to, we're talking about sports, but we want to help bring out the different aspects that are not being reached. So
Yeah,
if there's any way,
want debate, but we don't want to be Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless. These aren't fake debates.
Absolutely.
I'm pissed.
We're
when
not.
I debate, I get pissed.
Exactly.
I yell at Caleb all
we
the
want
time.
to we want to bring up the stuff that you don't feel is being talked about, and that you're actually getting a conversation being brought up on that. And let's keep bringing that up so that we can bring this up to the national level. So we like to thank everyone for listening to us. Please like and subscribe. Please join us. Please comment. Let us know how you would like anything you'd like to hear us talk about. We want to, indulge with our fan base and help bring you more content that you want to hear about. Because of course we're going to bring up what we think you want to share about. But please tell us. Besides we're still going to talk about what we want to talk about. Not going to lie. It's going to happen.
At least
especially when it comes to football. We're going to talk about our teams.
Please.
But yeah, absolutely. Come out.
Come on. We'll bring them all.
Let us know. Let us know what you're wanting to hear about, and let's help build this, build this community as big as we can and keep rolling on with it. So I'd like to thank Caleb. I'd like to thank Jeff for being here. Thank you for spending your time coming out and joining with us. This is Chris Porter, wrapping up another great episode of Next Level Sports. We'll see you at the next round. Cheers, gentlemen.